Alrighty then. I think we are live. Let me see. All right, all right. Good morning from my end. Morning on the afternoon on the East Coast. So today, you know, uh, unfortunately, my boss Musa Jang couldn't make it. Koji is also tied up, so it's me and Demba Balde will be joining us. Suleiman Jang, Yunus Haidra, and Mustafa Swandi. So it'll be a very engaged discussion for sure. So we'll look forward to having you all. So let me get these to the folks, man. Here we go. All right. So we are live.
Gambiana. Welcome to Greenville Estate in the heart of Gunjur, just minutes away from the Gunjur Highway. The estate is located in a serene and nature-oriented environment which makes it the first community in the Gambia certified by the National Environmental Agency. As part of our Going Green initiative, beautiful trees grace the landscape as you drive into the estate, and we are planting even more trees. Go green and own a piece of our Greenville dream. With 673 plots of land available, you can purchase a plot today and start construction immediately. Find your next home at the Greenville Estate, an affordable estate that suits any budget.
While you have certainly heard about coronavirus, commonly called COVID, you might not know these important facts and ways to protect your family from the illness it can bring. COVID can be very contagious through air, touch, or sharing food. It has been studied at length, and we can share with you what we know so far. Who are we? We are New World International, a non-profit organization located in Washington State, and our mission is to educate people about coronavirus. The coronavirus can cause serious illness and, yes, even death if not treated right away. The symptoms are similar to the common flu: fever, cough, sore throat, and shortness of breath. Many people experience these symptoms and wait too long to seek medical attention. That can be a life-threatening mistake. Certainly, keeping a safe distance from others that appear to have flu symptoms is advisable. It's always better to be safe than sorry. If you develop these symptoms, there won't be any way for you to know that it's just a common flu unless you have a test done. It's best to seek out a doctor, nurse, health worker, or health facility to get advice and treatment if needed. If you are a student, report the conditions to your teacher right away. By all means, stay home if you are sick. Always cover your mouth and nose if you sneeze, and wash up afterward. The contagion spreads with the moisture droplets. As you have heard, there is a vaccine available for coronavirus. Seriously consider receiving a vaccine before you become ill. And above all, consult with your doctor when you do not feel well. For more information, please visit us online at newworldinternational.org.
Mr. Balde.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, man. Today our boss is engaged and the coach also has something going on. And I said, you know, we still gotta wing it. I have to invite some folks to have a discussion because there's a lot of issues trending. So that's that we'll have Mustafa Swandi joining us and Suleiman Jeng also will join us. And
Excellent, excellent,
hopefully
excellent.
Yunus said if he has time and he's gonna join us as well. So definitely. Oh, there you go. There you go, Mustafa.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum.
Mustafa.
I love that crew. Alaikum salam, Mustafa.
Yes, how are you? Where is Musa? What is he doing? Is he sleeping?
No, I was just talking to Demba. I said, Musa, my boss has something going on today, and
Okay, yes, yes.
yeah. And coach also has something, and they were like, "Hey, well, what's up?" I said, "Well, there's a lot of trending issues. I think we just need to invite other folks if you guys are busy to
Absolutely,
have a
absolutely.
good discussion. Not to just go dormant on this Sunday. So yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
Yes.
Yeah. So how
Absolutely.
is the
All right.
Gambia, Mustafa?
Gambia, Alhamdulillah, we are here. It's trying to navigate the waters.
I hear you. Demba, how is the
Mustafa,
Yes.
family?
family is good, Alhamdulillah. We're doing good. Mustafa, how are you?
I am okay, Alhamdulillah. Can't
It's been a while.
complain.
It's been a while. Huh?
Yes.
I didn't get to see you this time in December. I didn't get to see you.
Yes, but I'm around and doing the usual things.
Right.
Yes.
I think you may have been in Swiss. Did you go to Swiss?
Yes, but not after the trial. I didn't go back again for the verdict. I
Oh, I
just
see.
went
I
for
see. Okay.
I just went for the trial and I didn't go back for the
I
verdict.
see. The trial was in December, correct? Right? It was somehow in
It was in January.
January. Yeah.
Yes, and then there was a pleadings in March, and then the verdict comes just
After
few
that, yeah.
yeah.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I was in home and in January I was in Gambia.
Yeah, so
I
yeah,
was on the I was on
that
the
must
front.
have been why. Nice, nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
So Demba,
Ah,
as usual, and Mustafa, we have some burning issues and issues that impact folks in the Gambia. How our government runs. I mean, back in 2016, when there was change of government, we all aspired that
mm,
we're gonna change the direction of our country for good in terms of corruption, human rights violation, and things that we all fought for against Jambe's tenure as president. But a couple of months we've got the rise on corruption. I mean, people alleging. We've seen how government conducting business in terms of allocating resources, to some particular media houses. And these are important for us to kind of talk about and have a good discussion. And, but how that contract in itself was awarded, a lot of folks had questions about it. And, we would like to kind of have a discussion, what your take is on it, and how do you think the government should navigate and be more transparent and be accountable to the people of the republic?
Well, if you said the people of the republic, it felt as if you are talking about my newspaper. But anyway, but
Okay.
it's all the same. It's all the same. We are also people of the republic. Anyway, everyone is people of the
Congratulations,
republic.
Mustafa, on the Republic, by the
Yes,
way.
yes, yes. It's the same. It's the same.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that this is a very complex question you asked. On the one hand,
But Mustafa, you are echoing for some reason. I don't know. Is it coming
I
from?
don't. Am I echoing now?
I think so. Still.
Perhaps it's coming from your end. Maybe I am logged in two times.
I can hear him okay, though.
Huh?
Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, wait. It does look like I may. Let me. Okay, it's okay. Let me just down some things. Am I coming out clear now?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So I think the issue is that there are a lot of one question you asked. The first thing is the media contract to popularize a government agenda. What is clear is that this project was not clearly it was not truthfully communicated in my view. I have read the contract. If you go to the public, you will see we just recently did a story on it. I have raised issues that are.
Mustafa, folks are saying you're still echoing. That's what they are saying.
That is true. Can I log out and maybe log in again?
No, no problem. No problem. No problem.
Let me just leave and come back again. Let's see.
No problem. Yeah, Demba can go ahead then. No problem.
Yes, sir, and thank you very much for obviously having me. And then, Mustafa is one of my favorites to have on a platform, right? Because he deals with the issues in depth. But yeah, there is a lot to chew on when you think about, what we were fighting for, where we came from, and where we are right now. There is a lot to chew on. To say that we are not disappointed is an understatement. This was not what most of us were expecting, or some of us were expecting. Obviously, some of us were conscious that the people do not have the magnitude. They do not grasp the magnitude of the problem that we had. A lot of people thought the problem we had was Yaya Jammeh and Yaya Jammeh alone. When if Yaya Jammeh goes, our problem would be solved. Some of us were very, very conscious about the fact that the republic or the state can fall into the wrong hands again, unless we have some very, very conscious leaders who are completely aware of our history and completely aware of where we came from and where we want to go. We did not just want to change Yaya Jammeh, for the government for government, right? That's not what we wanted. What we wanted was a clear reset of our governance systems, our democracy, our rule of law, and just give everybody the opportunity and the chance to to really to excel in our country. But I don't think our people were conscious of the deficit, the governance deficits that we were in, and the level of corruption, the level of incompetence, the damage that was inflicted not only on our institutions, but also on our society, the fabrics of our society, the basic fabrics of our society and our government was really, 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 damaged. So to recover from that, you just don't get any leaders to come in and just try to pick up the pieces from there. You have to have some really very, very conscious leaders, very, very serious leaders that would come in and then that would set the pace. Unfortunately, we accidentally, and I know people don't like this word, but we accidentally voted a government that was not the dream of the Gambian people. That was not our aspirations. And some of us saw this very, very early on, 3 months into the transition. Some of us started raising some red flags and saying the personnel appointment that we're seeing, this is not the direction that we want to go. And some of us were actually shut down and say, hey, no, give them a chance. I mean, the government is still new. We're still going through all this. But Sadian, we did not fight just to be able to speak. That's not what our fight was. Our fight was far deeper than that. We were fighting for the survival of our nation. We were fighting for a generation. We are fighting for, for democracy, for freedom, for rule of law, and most importantly, for good governance and human rights. That is what is missed. Now, fast forward to where we are today. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. I mean, it sometimes I am tempted sometimes to say, okay, you know what? I think I lost hope as far as change is concerned in Gambia. But I can't give up on myself. You cannot give up on yourself. When you give up on your country, you're giving up on yourself. You're giving up on your own responsibilities. So once in a while, when I listen to the president, I'm like, he puts me to sleep. Honest to God, Jame used to agitate you. Okay, Jame would say something, would agitate you, and then you would get up and challenge yourself and just go out and do something. This president he doesn't get it. And I know, I mean, people are gonna. Unfortunately, we look at everything at the in the lens of politics. Everything that we looked at in the Gambia, we look at it at as a political thing, but it's not. It is about our country. And as far as I'm concerned, the buck stops with the president, but the responsibility of running a nation is not only rested on the hands of the president. People have to stand up. Citizens have to stand up and advocate for what they believe, advocate for their fellow citizens, the freedom, the democracy, and just the future, the well-being of our collective citizens. That's what we're supposed to be advocating for. And this goes beyond the president. Unfortunately, we have people who are surrounding the president, who most of them, many of them cannot compete on a level playing field. Okay, they're basically doing whatever they are doing to survive, to maintain their jobs. I mean, you go to I mean, it's unfortunate that young bright people like Dr. Sisa and others. Okay, we look at Dr. Sisa as I mean, the Sanko of the Gambia. That's how a lot of us looked at him before. It's like, what? This is a young blood coming in with a young mind, coming in, and hopefully it's giving us some hope. But look at where he is right now. So the government experimented a project with him, and that's the same project. I know we will talk about the arrests and detentions and and all that, but that is exactly what they did with Dr. Cisse. They broke him. He was broken. They detained him. They did all kind of stuff. They call him all names. He subdued. Okay. So I mean, generally, I mean, what I'm trying to say, it's not about one individual. I'm just trying to discuss a collective thing about us as a Gambia and where we are right now in our country. This is not where we aspire to be. But I tell you what, we cannot get to the next level, by giving up, or by just blaming one person like we did with Jame. So I think we have a lot of challenges. I mentioned this on a Facebook post. I said every Gambian should be ashamed of what goes on in that country. Every Gambian. You go out in the streets in that country, you should be feeling guilty by yourself. What is going on in that country? The chaos, the lawlessness, the poverty that you see in that street, and just the loss of hope for our young people. I mean, every one of us should be concerned about it. And I know, again, people are just gonna act like this is normal politics. It's the government in power trying to do this opposition and all that. This is beyond that. As conscious Gambians, we should be looking at the future of our country. I just, it's just mind-boggling. But I'll leave it up there for now. I mean, I see my uncle right there, Mr. Jeng. Coming in. So we're gonna have a good show today.
Yeah, Suleiman, greetings.
Samaro, how are you, sir?
Good.
No way.
Zanala.
Jamtan alhamdulillah. No best gorene.
Many people are going to be surprised that a Jeng SRL there is an uncle to a Balde here.
I know. Mr. Dabo, how are you, sir? It's a pleasure to
I am okay, alhamdulillah.
join you again in another forum. Samaro,
How are you, sir?
Yes. Good, Mr. Gang, side gang. So just to kind of recap what we discussed earlier. So I was asking this question, Gang and Mustafa. Mustafa started answering, but he had to go out and come back in. But Gang, what we were discussing was, you know, transparency in our government and holding our government accountable. I mean, when there was a change back in 2016, all of us aspire to see to something totally fundamentally different than the status quo. And it looks like that has not been achieved. And Demba rightfully said, some of them caution, us and say, hey, I think you guys are giving this guy a lot of the leeway out there. And, people turn deaf ear to it. And there you go. Today we're here, we're complaining. We had a lot of issues, lack of transparency. We've seen the government allocated 40 million to, few media houses. The execution of that even contract is questionable. People question it because lack of transparency. And this keep going on and on and on. I think the question was, what lead us here, and what are some of the impediments, and how do we steer forward, and hold the government accountable and also answerable to the people of the Republic of the Gambia? That was the question.
Sorry, I'm in between at work, so I'm trying to catch up as well. There isn't one answer, because there is a collection of factors that actually led us to where we are today. I can hear myself. It's recording.
Maybe you need to do what I did. Log out and come back again. But why am I also echoing again?
All right.
Am I also echoing again?
Yes, you are echoing. And I think I am echoing too.
Yes. I just hold the interview here.
Let me text my tech guy. I say let me text the tech support guy.
I think so, because I just hold an interview on this platform. If it is the room, it would have echoed the same time, but it's not the room.
I think I can hear you though, Mustafa. I mean, I don't know. Can you hear yourself? I mean, can you hear yourself echo in your room?
Yes, I can hear it clearly, but then there are a number of folks who are complaining that it echoes. And it's uncomfortable to listen to it.
Yeah, can you all hear me now?
Yeah. Well, we can hear you, but it seems like you are echoing.
Yeah, I'm echoing. Yeah. I don't know.
Maybe this is what I probably. Well, let me talk to my tech. Hold on a second.
Are you guys logged in on any other devices?
I'm not logged in any device, to be honest.
I'm not either.
The American system is very similar to that of the Gambian internet model.
We're fine. I'm in my office, and I'm okay here. But obviously, I'm on the phone, so I'm not even using the office internet or something.
Demba, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, so I'm not echoing, but when they get in, I think when we're having discussion, people keep saying I'm echoing too. So I don't know.
Maybe we need to mute when they're talking, and let's try that and see.
He says you all are echoing. That's what they said.
Oh, am I echoing too?
Someone Lamindao said you are okay. Yeah, they said you're the only one who is not echoing.
All right. While you guys are watching, let me eat my breakfast. Sorry. I think Sarian went out calling the tech guy.
Yes. Yeah, because I'm still echoing, and oh, am I not? It doesn't look like I am now.
I don't hear any echoes anymore. I mean,
Yeah, I don't either.
maybe the people who are listening are hearing. I don't know.
Or
Maybe
maybe it's Saria, because no, when I was echoing, I could hear it, but
Mr. Jang, are you echoing too? Can we hear you? You are on
it's
mute.
mute.
Mr. Jang, you are muted.
It's mute. Nobody could hear you. It looks like he's talking to someone also.
Oh, okay.
Yep. All right. Are we all good now?
Well, I don't know. It looks like
it looks like Mustafa, you are not echoing, so which is good. It looks like I'm not.
Yeah, I think so.
So we should be good then.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Mustafa, go ahead.
Now, I mean, what I was trying to say was that the money that was paid to the media was not necessarily meant for a particular. In my opinion, it was not meant to fulfill a particular purpose for the government, other than having journalists do what politicians want them to do. They hide behind open government. But the idea of open government is not government telling people what it wants to tell them. The idea of open government is for government to release critical information that citizens need to have about their governance and release that to the public. That's the idea of open government. It's not to say the office of the education minister decides that this is what the people need to know, so we go and hold the town hall meeting and tell them that. No, that's not how open government works. So you don't get to six media houses, 4 or 5, and say, "Oh, we have signed an access to information law, and we want you to help us now reach the public or our government citizens regarding information about governance." In the first place, the contradiction is how you sign a contract to promote access to information law and refuse to police the contract. That's the first contradiction. Now, the second contradiction is that you don't get to sign access to information law. You refuse not just to give citizens the information, but also even the media houses, the document also fail to publish. And it's elementary in journalism. When you sign a contract, whether it's advertisement, advertorial, paid content. We have the list is long that you tell your audience that this content is paid for. So, and media houses started implementing this contract without telling the audience. I didn't follow the media houses that much. That is why my story didn't focus on media houses. But I found the process the government took to award this contract very out of order. Very disturbing because one, there was enough time for this contract to be taken to the parliament in this in the budget. And if it were put in the budget, the lawmakers would have had enough time to scrutinize the document and decide whether they would have it in the budget or not. This did not happen. Why? They had time because the government, political leaders, and this was a political decision, an NPP project, it was not a government project. It was a loss NPP suffered at that is what brought about this. So this is not a public, it's a political project. Now, but this political project in January last year. So the very reason why we didn't have it in the budget, and remember also that they in fact secured the GPPA approval on December 1st. But they started the GPPA project, I believe, in October. The first draft of this was produced in June. So the only reason why it was not was because the government never wanted this public in the first place. Because the budget is the worst place to hide anything. Because when you hide anything in the budget, you're taking it to the worst place. That's a bantaba. You don't do that. They didn't want it public. That is why they put it. They refused to put it. They ignored putting it in the budget. And so they went and used what is called environment. Now, environment is not, and this is a mistake. It's like if you procurement issue, they say, oh, we get an GPPA approval. GPPA approval is law in itself. GPPA is established by law, act in accordance with law that is. So the GPPA approval itself. So the fact that you approval does not necessarily mean that what you've done is right. That's one thing. The second thing is that environment.
Mustafa.
Yes.
So they said that you are echoing Bluetooth on or no?
Now you are sounding like those.
So yeah, you're sounding worse right now.
Yeah.
Than me. I think yours is worse than me.
Yeah, it says this. So let me. Suleiman, how about you?
Can you mute everyone? Can you mute everyone except me and let's see? Have you muted everyone? Aha. So it's Ibaribunkas always come up with solution. Good, thank you. Yes, you see, yeah. So so this is the issue. Now the other issue that I was trying to address is that environment is addressed in the Public Finance Act. And so if you are going to via any amount of resources to any office, any budget entity, it should not be more than 75% of the original allocation. Now, but this so-called environment is more than the entire budget of the Ministry of Information. So environment does not apply in situations of this nature legally. according to Public Finance Act. This you guys would remember this was a very contentious issue environment under the days of Mamburenjai towards the beginning of the term of Mr. Keita, Sidi Keita. Uh, Sometime last year, I believe, or year before, there was a huge back and forth between them and the parliament regarding the issue of violence. So those are there. But also, another interesting thing is that the so-called two content creators that they have selected were, by best available evidence, owned by the same production company. Now, the question is, how do you get to select two so-called content creators owned by the same individual? Now, going by how things work in the Gambia, you know what the undertone is. And so, like I always said, Gambia government or public servants, they don't go into procurement, large-scale procurement. We are building roads, we are buying cars. They don't do these things for nothing. They do these things because these things are large kickback schemes, all of them. That's why nobody can convince them to do anything productive. It will always be building roads, building schools. It will always be construction and buying cars. Because these things are huge kickback schemes. They are contracts that are largely, hugely inflated. And you've seen that in a lot of cases. And that is why, I was saying that when it comes to access to information does not require showmanship. And that's what the Ministry of Information is doing. It does not require turning the Facebook page of the Ministry of Information into a website or a news publication platform. It does not require ministry to run do you know messages on Facebook. All that it requires is that government has appointed, and this has already happened, appointed information officers. Access to information is to empower those information officers with adequate information to be able and have the authorization, the right authorization to share information. Now, I deal with information officers probably more often than the information minister. And quite often, if not in all cases, the information I seek, they don't have answers to it. In fact, in most cases, they would rather rely on me to tell them what the truth is. Because the information officer, for example, of Ministry of Information does not have this contract, this media contract. He has no idea what's inside it. But I have. But he has no idea what is inside it. He cannot answer my questions because he does not know what to say. Now, while the minister is running, perambulating, as they say, in different media houses and all these places, I have questions he could not answer. Now, when I sent my questions, he said I should send the questions to the permanent secretary because he was not there when the contract was signed or when this whole thing was. But yet he was in all the media houses talking all what not, but he couldn't answer the questions I have. And that's the difference between information that the public needs to have and information that the government wants the public to have. Now, the journalist he is facing, those journalists have information that Ismaila wants them to have. I have information that the public needs to have. That is why he does not face me. Instead, he faces the people who have information the government wants them to have. Because that information is the convenient one. That is the one you are, no, yeah, this is access to information, we signed this contract so that, no. But they do not take him meticulously from the beginning that why didn't you take it in the budget? There was enough time. Why didn't you make sure this was advertised? Why did you make sure this was taken through a so-called, how do you call it, the procurement process they've adopted? The procurement process that they had called, sorry, I lost a thread of thought. There was
restricted.
Exactly,
right?
exactly. Yeah, restricted tendering. the other question, why did you take it through a form of restricted tendering? Because restricted tendering is not a procurement process that applies to every situation. Say, for example, the Gambia government wants to buy a jet engine, and there are only two companies in the Gambia that build jet engines. Now, Gambia government will be obliged or will be right to go to those two companies and take quotations from there. Restricted tendering applies to situations where the services the government is seeking are specialized in nature and available in few places. And even in such situations, you have to go, they said you have to select at least a number of five, where a few is available, or I think something like that. But you have to select a pool and then come to select within those pools. But in this case, they just went to few media houses, which they secretly contacted and not tell others. Now, I didn't bother so much with questioning the ethics of taking this contract or not. I mean, media houses can deal with that themselves. I'm a journalist myself, so I don't wish to, I do not want that back and forth. My focus was merely based on the process that was taken to give this contract, and that process is wrong, and in most cases illegal. And I think if government opens an investigation into this, they will find that it's fraudulent and kickbacks are paid. I believe that by best available evidence. I think yes. I think this was a kickback scheme. It was nothing short of that. The other issue is that if you if you they have allocated 41 million, because in February they paid, after the contract is signed, they paid 20.5 million, which is half of 41 million. Now, this project total cost is 40 million 100 and I think 35 or 45,000. Now, where is the 800,000 going to? From what I had, I sent this, I require an answer to this question, but they didn't say. But I heard in the rumors that they said it's administration cost. Administration cost? You are paying people working in the Ministry of Information for implementing this contract after getting salary? Is that the case? For $800,000 a month, a year, sorry? How many people are this? These are questions that government comes out to answer. These are the questions that require the issue of access to information. When people say access to information, this is what they mean. They are talking about contracts. For example, you've signed a contract with Espas to supply vehicles. Where is that contract? That contract should be public. This is what is access to information. Contracts like Banjul project and issues relating to it. This is access to information. This contract should be public. Contracts that they've signed with Ereski to build these roads, how much money is spent on it, a breakdown, thorough breakdown of that expenditure, so that the people are able to interrogate these facts and see whether we have value for money. This is access to information. Access to information is not to go and sit down and tell us how many roads you have built. We don't need a president to build a road. If the whole government died, like right now, and we just get a bunch of fufu heads and put them in government, they can just raise money to build a road. Nobody needs even a cent to build a road. You just need a government. Government is a liable payer of debt. Everyone knows. You just go to a bank or go to any other institution, seek a credit facility, and build a road. You don't need to think. Yeah. So those don't come and bring a minister and tell us how many roads you built. This is not access to information, because the people already know those roads are built. The fact that you build the road is not news. People are seeing it. But the content of the contract that you've issued, how much money you've spent on it, those monies, breakdowns of it, how much, who it goes to, the contract, how it was issued. Is it issued to someone who is very close to the president? Is there any conflict of interest? Does anybody get a kickback? This is what access to information is about. It's not about so you can talk too much without saying anything. And that is why it's convenient for government to do town hall meetings. When I sent questions, I sent 2 batches of questions to the information minister. And so he asked that I appeared at press conference. I told him I don't appear at press conferences. Press conferences are not for me. You see, I do investigations. How can I come to a press conference only to deal with an opportunity to ask 2 questions? I don't do that. I have a list of checklists that I look at. Did you take it through GPPA? Yes, I checked. Did you take it through this? Yes. Did you go to Banjul to meet this person? Yes. Where did you meet him? This place. I check it. What time did you meet the person? This time. Who was there when you meet? This is what job is about. It's not you come and sit down. I have 2 questions. Oh yeah, the GPPA. Yes, GPPA approved it. Okay, where is the approval? Give us a copy of the approval. Yeah. So these are some of the things that are very, very important. Yeah. You can mute me when you are asking questions so that, or I can mute myself.
It's okay. No, I wanted to follow up on that point. So, if you have the checklist, so and so, and meet so and so, beforehand, have the correct information when they mention those type of animals.
Sorry, you sounded really, really bad.
I don't know what happened. Your audio out.
Saria, you're muting. It's very bad. Can you unmute yourself and come back again?
Can you hear me?
Can you unmute yourself and come back again? I couldn't hear you.
No, I did. Hold on.
I think the information minister doesn't want you to be saying much today. That's why he's interfering with the internet.
It doesn't want Saria to say much, maybe.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you. Sariang, you think the minister has not spoken to you so that you can mess the the internet?
I don't know. And today, if this thing doesn't come out good, my boss will be all over this thing. He will like, oh, Mandega guy. They could not hear. It was all echoing. So he says, okay. He says it's good now. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So Mustafa, what I was asking is, you kind of mentioned something which is very interesting. So you have a checklist when you go in there and ask these questions. Do you get the correct information ahead of time or after they gave you their summation of their answers, then you follow up to verify what they've told you is actually accurate?
Well, there are many like all journalists, and so all journalists in all other platforms do. There are many ways to do it. You could just go at the beginning of your work to find out answers that you have questions for. Questions you have answers for the questions you have, but you can also go back after the answers and go back again. So when I went there was at the end of the story I did. So I went there to seek the answers. Now, but the problem is that, you see, that's why I'm talking about access to information and the importance of access to information. It is not government saying to the people what it wants to say, because that's easy. It is the critical questions people are asking about detail. Now, when we are talking about details, we are not talking about bulk stuff. Like you would come and tell me, oh, we spent 800 million on buying vehicles. This is not a story. I personally would not run that story because this is not information. Now, this is a very raw data that is grossly unprocessed. Like, uh, how did you hire the person who goes to procure those vehicles? Um, how was this contract decided? Where is the contract? Can I have a copy? Has the Gambia Public Procurement approved it? And then you now go and read the contract and read the details of that procurement and go to now read the act of the Gambia Public Procurement. If they issued it under a restricted tender or it was bidding, open bidding and others, if it is open bidding itself, there can be issues. You can go and talk to other contractors who applied, who participated in the bid. Sometimes they engineer bidding um, times to favor a particular party. Sometimes, in fact, sometimes there are fake companies. Like there would be four companies, three of which are fake, and they are all created by individuals, but they exist. Do you see it? Like, for example, I gave you an example of two content creators, which are reportedly owned by one person. Now, they create also in similar situations fake companies where people will bid, and you will see through bids, you will see through company names, and you are going to see true numbers. Now, if you check these numbers, you will realize that the one that wins actually has the lowest. But these ones were deliberately cooked so that this one that wins to appear very normal. All these things happen in procurement in the Gambia. So if you are telling me about a procurement process, give me data that will enable me to verify it. Do you see the point? Now, this is this is what access to information is about. It's about giving a person available, good, correct, available data that he can use to go and verify the information that you give. You see, and so when part of the reasons why government is so much like press conferences, because nobody can get anything from a press conference. Press conference is a chaotic environment where everybody just um, gets to have um, maybe two answers to very complex, vexed questions. So if you are an investigative journalist, press conference is just not where you go. It's not your thing. If you are also a journalist, I mean, you can go to a press conference maybe after your story and get to have an opportunity to ask two questions. That's if you are frustrated. But the most ideal one is to have someone sit down in front of you and go through a checklist. Some interviews take 2 hours, some interviews take 3 hours. How do you do that in a press conference? You see, and town hall meetings and things like that. So, but essentially what I am saying is that in the first part, the so-called government popularization agenda was wrong. It was done using processes that were very wrong. And I think that it needs to be investigated, if not thoroughly audited. And the other issue is that the access to information posture that the government currently have, that is not what you do when you want citizens to have access to information. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Suleiman has been every morning when I wake up in the morning. I see Suleiman doing a lot of write up, and what we discussed, Suleiman. Thinking about 2016, and we were all happy that there was a change of government. We said we got rid of dictatorship and we aspire those to build on those democratic gains. But down the road today, that is kind of not what we're seeing as time goes on. lack of transparency, government not being open to its citizens. And Mustafa highlighted a lot of issues in terms of even awarding those contracts to promote government agenda. Still now, the content, my question always comes in, well, what have they been paid for? I mean, what are they doing? What are they executing? I mean, on behalf of the government. So I think we wanted to hear from you. What do you think? Where do we fall off track and wave off from the direction that majority that were very, very involved in fighting Jammeh's dictatorship and getting rid of Jammeh, having borrowing, and somehow it is off track and it's drifting on a different course than what we all aspire.
Yeah, I think to be precise, one can say without any fear of doubt that the whole thing began to change when Barrow started affiliating with the then Jammeh enablers, people like Fabakary Tombong Jata, people like Sidi Njai, and a host of others. So we know these people, had a history of enabling Jammeh, and they were also people who strongly opposed, the election and the swearing of President Barrow. And when he started working with them closely, we saw him slowly aping Jammeh's style of leadership. So we saw the weekly, press conference that he used to have at State House, all seas. And then we started hearing him talking about the diaspora as not being useful as he used to claim. And from then they started, using the Jammeh's checkbook of leadership. Um, I believe every ministry has an information officer. And like I said to a couple of the ministers that I chat with, it's always important. It makes your work a lot easier if this officer comes out maybe weekly or, fortnightly and organize a press conference and inform people what the ministry, was doing, what successes it has, what is its constraint. If a minister travels abroad and comes back home, they should hold a conference and then, inform people where the minister went to, why he went, what did he achieve, etc. So these would make it a lot easier. But when information is not accessed and leadership is not transparent, it creates, what you call rumor. People begin, to insinuate, to say things, to spread things around. And that way they would come around and say, oh, these people are haters, or these people, don't have the information. But they're sitting on the information. And the only reason why they're sitting on the information is because they are scared that when the truth comes out, people would see that, they've not been doing what they elected to do or what they appointed to do. But most of them are just there, as Mustafa highlighted. It's like doing things, behind camera, wherein they would access kickbacks, etc. So that's my observation, to be honest.
All right, thank you. Demba, the other question. Am I echoing? I don't know.
We need to send you to Atlanta to get some lessons.
And if you have a question for me or something like that.
Hello?
Let me mute.
But hello?
Yeah, you're coming loud and clear.
Okay, good. I don't know what happened, but my devices are all turned off. I even took my Bluetooth off. So, all right. So Demba, I think a couple of days ago, we've seen the government redeploy governors to be deputy permanent secretaries. And we all know right before then, there was a case filed by the UDP saying that the government actually illegally not going through the due process to employ these governors. And it brings the central question of transparency. Bring the central, yeah, I don't know what happened.
I
Go ahead.
think
I am muted. I think it's the muting. Go ahead. I will mute when you finish out on mute.
Okay. All right. So, the government we've seen, it kind of plays into the theme that we were discussing: lack of transparency and openness, thinking that they can circumvent the system. And thinking of that, what is your take on that? I mean, obviously, these folks are redeployed. I think what they sense is maybe they are trying to kind of not be, beating that maybe UDP is going to win the case at the courts, and the best way to do it just to circumvent the system and beat before that verdict comes around. But I want to hear from you what you think about those type of processes or the way of running our government, because at the center of all these things, if someone is qualified and it's that person, he or she is a bona fide Gambian, he's eligible to be employed at all costs. But the fact that people are not being employed or hired through the right channels, it brings a lot of scrutiny and discussion. And I'm not sure, what do you think about that as well?
Well, Sarian, thank you very much. I mean, my take is that the hiring of most of these people, if not all of them, were illegal. Okay. So I keep emphasizing this government always do things backwards. They hire these people illegally because, I mean, a lot of Gambians did not even realize it's like what Mustafa is saying. These governors are public servants. They're civil servants. Okay. They're supposed to be appointed under the PSC, not the president. The president have no business appointing these people. There is a commission, a public service commission. These people are supposed to be appointed from that. Okay. So now that this lawsuit has been filed, they realize that, you know what, maybe we messed up here. So we're going to resent or move these people, and just try to monkey up the process again. I mean, the president has no business appointing governors. Okay. I mean, the governors have been misused to be political appointees, and they are political operatives of the president. But they're supposed to be, they're supposed to be appointed under the PSC. So, I mean, Gambians are supposed to know these things, and the PSC or the PMO was supposed to raise hell for the appointment of some of these people that are illegal. I mean, Sari, and you and I know, we all grew up, we know redeployment of permanent secretaries here and there it's not new. It's been done as far back as, founding of our republic. But the main reason for that is that if you realize that somebody has some kind of, expertise, some kind of competence, like technical skills, and, they were appointed under the Ministry of Tourism, but actually they need to be under the Petroleum Ministry, you redeploy them and then you bring them over there. So governors are, at the same level as our deputy permanent secretaries. The governors are supposed to be training levels to the next level. Saria, you've been in leadership, and you've been in HR or in procurement. I mean, I've been in HR for so long. We know institutional memories are so important in running an institution. Having people there that have been there and they know about the ins and out of an institution. I mean, because running an institution is not easy. Being a leader is not easy. Permanent secretaries are there to run these institutions. They're supposed to be technical advisors. So, I mean, if you realize that somebody is incompetent in that field, they don't have any competency in that field, you can move them around. to where their competence is. But that is putting the cart before the horse. That was supposed to be done in the first place when they were nominated. They were supposed to be appointed. That assessment was supposed to be done, and some gatekeeper somewhere, the PSC or the PMO, is supposed to say, no, this person is not competent. They don't have the qualifications. They don't have the leadership and the experience to be appointed in this position. But no, these things were done. So now that a lawsuit, and this is why I've been advocating for us as citizens in the Gambia to have, a movement or a group that would have, citizens for the defense of our constitution. If we realize that something is violated, the constitution is violated, people are appointed, or something has been done wrong, we can go ahead and file a lawsuit. And as a result of the lawsuit, that's why these people they revisited this, and now they're correcting course. I believe that this is what's happening. They're correcting course because some of these people, or if not all of them, were appointed illegally in the first place. And now they're coming in and scrambling again. What is the purpose of the Ministry of Justice or the Attorney General advising the government or the PSC in order for the appointment of these people? So it's just our government is backwards, and the people don't seem to understand how the government is supposed to work. But going back to what I was talking about earlier, in a corrupt society like the Gambia, right? Sometimes it is good to move people around, because then you don't want to you don't want to you don't want people to be there and they're playing favorism and all that kind of stuff, right? Because once they know you are here, like you are the governor of URR, my Fuller people would start going, and you are a Fuller guy over there. They start coming in and then enticing you. And in the long run, you get swallowed into that system if you're not a competent or an honest citizen, and you start doing something illegal. So if you move to a different ministry, perhaps somebody else coming in would be able to dig into the process and see. And this is where whistleblowers are so important in any government. We should whistleblowers and say, this is what people are doing in here. But what this government is doing is, like, for example, the CEOs of the area council. Somebody is being accused of embezzling or corruption, and then you take that person and you move them to another council. I mean, it's just an insult, to the process or to the open governance that we're supposed to have in the Gambia. So this is my take on it. My take is that they are correcting costs. They realize that they messed up big time, and now they're correcting costs. That is my take, and I could be wrong. I mean, perhaps we should have somebody that is an expert in the Public Service Commission or from the PMO to
Just
explain
to elaborate on what Mr. Bande is saying, if you look at the public service, is governed by what you call the general orders. That's what governs the civil service and the financial instructions. So permanent and secretaries and deputy permanent secretaries, these are public administrators. And then the governors, are also public administrators. So the deputy permanent secretaries were to be deployed as governors so that they have that administrative training and experience, so that when they come back, they would be promoted to permanent secretaries, and then the most experienced permanent secretary would be appointed as the secretary general. So the governors are all civil servants, and that was the whole criteria. But Jammeh started, dismissing these people and appointing governors on political appointment. And when the transition came, they never had, a sit down to look at how the civil service operates, how it is governed, and where you can, have political appointees, etc. That's why we saw during the transition, the foreign services being saturated by people who never had any experience about, international relations, holding positions and messing up things. So UDP thought and looked at it, because if you look at me, I did say UDP has kind of rebranded itself. And people are saying I've said so many things about UDP in the past, and I did, and I still stand by those things, because those were the times when UDP was living that era. But they have seen their mistakes and they have corrected and rebranded itself. Now look at, some of its members coming out, to all the media platforms talking about, their agenda, refuting some of the things that the government is doing. You would hardly come on the social media and see UDP previous elements that would come out and insult you, and then, when you write things, they'll be like vultures hungry all over you, insulting you, castigating you, and doing things, that is just appalling. Now, if you look at NPP seems to be aping that. Barrow seems to be doing the same as Jammeh, instigating people, encouraging political vigilante. These were things that they were accusing UDP of. But now you can barely see UDP, projecting itself, in that manner. What they are doing, they look at things and say, okay, this is wrong. Government is not doing it right. Let's go to the courts. And once they go to the court, Barrow will realize, we are found out. So let's try and change this like they did with the governors. Before the verdict come and then, he is saying, he said, let's, just work quickly and then resolve this thing. Even when the verdict comes, we can turn around and say, yes, we have corrected it before even you made the choice. So that is vindicating themselves, trying to excuse themselves from blame. But already, or any intelligent or serious citizen would understand the mess had already been done. And if UDP had not taken them to court, this thing would have continued.
All right, thank you, Suleiman. So now I guess the baton has been passed on to MPP now. So the militancy. So I hope the cousins are listening. So Mustafa, what is your take on that one? Because what conclusion have you drawn in terms of the redeployment of governors to be deputy permanent secretaries and in various ministries?
I think that one of the problems in this country is toxic politics. Toxic politics, such that we don't have a conversation about what the agenda is. And so, um, and part of, so there is interference coming from different areas, and whether it is donor community setting the agenda for the country, or internal toxic politics interfering with people's senses. So everybody is engulfed with emotions and not thinking. But in the first place, the office of the governor should not exist. The current institutional arrangements we have in the Gambia, the office of the governor, it's like a square peg in a round hole. It shouldn't exist. The local governments are conceived as governments at the grassroots level. In fact, if you go to more efficient countries where this kind of model we envisage are functioning very well, say Switzerland, for example, they have 3 or 4 regions, I think. English speaking side, French speaking side, Italian speaking side, and I think Dutch speaking side. Now, they have regional governments that are all functioning almost independently with their own revenue generation methods and with their own implementation, the development implementation. Now, regional governments are supposed to function like that. In a normal country, this central government should be dismantled. It's a dead weight on the economy. It's a dead weight on. We could utilize our regional governments, populate them with very capable staff. Let funding be, let central government be in charge of foreign policy, the military, and some of the things that governments in a federation are taking care of. And then we put all the money, we take development to the grassroots so that it's handled by regional governments. The governor is useless. Governor actually has no job to do. You can ask anybody. Ask them what do governors do? Nothing. Governors, they sit and take salary, and they have a bodyguard and all of it. Governors do nothing except representing the president in the region. And that's why the president is so busy about creating governors, even where governors don't exist. Banjul and all this, because president just does not want to work with regional governments. Do you see my point? This region, governor's office should not exist. It has no use. It's a political office that only the executive rely on for whatever, to fire alcalos, hire alcalos, intervene in some domestic issues, which can all be handled by the councils. There is nothing in the regions that cannot be handled by the councils. KMC should strictly be for KMC to handle, the mayor to handle. The Brikama should strictly be for the chairperson to handle. The same for LRL, the same for all the regions. Governors are useless. They shouldn't exist in the first place. So I don't see why there shouldn't be a problem with this. The problem we have is because there is no balance. The president just, once his president comes from a particular party, he cannot work with people from another party. And this has been a problem in the Gambia for some time. And so once you get to the office of the president, you are still an effective holder of a political party office, such that you are too busy with two mandates to keep your party in power, which is not your mandate, because once you are elected, that's no longer your mandate. Your mandate is already there. Mandate is already to govern. Once you are voted, the mandate is governed. But now that you holding you're an effective holder of public office and an effective holder of your party's chief executive office, which is whose mandate is it to get your party re-elected again. So you are caught between these two agenda, and some quite often they don't work hand in glove. I mean, politics on one side and being a president for everybody on another side. You see what I mean? So yeah, for me, the office of the governor shouldn't exist in the first place.
All right, thank you, Mustafa. So I think the elephant in the room got to come out now. We talk about the toxic political environment, and recently, I think the president went on a call it industrial tour, and some of the utterances that were said create some type of controversy, and I think, as the chief executive of that country, I think he kind of need to set the tone, and especially when it is a funded trip and a dialogue with Gambians. I think, at least he needs to be measured in his utterances and what he said, because what you say plays a huge role, especially if you have followers, if you have your party members, and this creates a controversy, and that controversy roll in. There was, response to what he said, and there was different interpretation. But I think the particular one that I wanted to talk about is in his response, he was talking about civil servants, and he said, I was told that some civil servants are in my government to sabotage, and they've been insulting, but I will fire them, and they are gonna end up being beggars. I mean, if I hear such words, I'm telling you right now, it reminds me of Jammeh. Jammeh used to sit at the State House and tell people, okay, today is Eid. If you disagree with the pronouncement about, you know, Supreme Islamic Council, you're not gonna pray here. This is Fisuma Dekala. He goes into this. So if I see this chest pounding that a civil servant who is a bona fide Gambian, who is qualified to man, just because you suspect. And there was another area where he says, wherever you go, and you ask a civil servant which political party he support, he would say, I'm neutral. You know that that person is a opposition sympathizer. So just to put things in a context, I mean, where do we do wrong? I mean, what is all this about? About chest pounding? You're gonna fire people, they're gonna be beggars, especially if those folks have the qualification and they went through the due process to be civil servants. I mean, in the United States, there's not going to be anyone threatened to be fired because you support one. But you cannot discuss, as a federal employee, there's a Hatch Act. You can't openly discuss politics in the federal workspace and all that. That's against. But there's when political season comes in, there's a reminder. You go through training and all that just to make sure that you are reminded of your responsibilities. But besides work, you can discuss politics. You don't have to shy away from one way or the other. But when you hear the president saying such things, Demba, it's a concern, and I don't know what your take is on it.
Yes, yeah. I mean, obviously, it's a very much of a concern to a lot of conscious Gambians. As Mr. Fa mentioned earlier, this president just cannot separate his political party from really, governing the country. Okay, it's mind-boggling when you hear this president. I mean, talking about. I mean, he's listening to the wrong people. Okay. I mean, obviously, this was the Jame operative. This is why you saw that Jame was firing everybody and hiring everybody. When I get to his office first, whatever I tell him, that he reacts on that, and then he fires people. And then the next day, somebody else comes in, so he reinstates this person, and then fires another person. Right? Barrow is listening to the wrong people. If you believe that the civil servants, some of these people are involved in politics, what happened to setting up the tone yourself as a president? When did you hear Barrow set the tone for good administration or for good governance or even being a patriot? A citizen committed to delivering service in the Gambia. The only time this president signs, the only time you see him smiles and he gets really, really excited is when he is on the political train talking about his political opponents. We have a lot of issues in the Gambia. We have youths that are dying to be motivated. We have institutions that need leaders really to be inspired, to set the tone and to start delivering. But this president, the only time you see him excited and smiling around is when he goes around to talk to, to stand on a political rally and start talking about his opponents. And it is very, very dangerous, because what he's doing is that he's listening to the people that are saying, "Oh, this person is UDP, this person is NP, PDYS, or this person is an opponent, it's against the NPP, and therefore they should be fired." And he's interfering in the governing aspects of some areas that he has no business being in. It is very dangerous. And at the same time, I know we will talk about this again. The same time, the president is setting setting citizens against other citizens. He's telling his opponents, his supporters, fight against these other citizens. Think about the kind of chaos that this thing is creating in the country. What if UDP leader comes out and say, to my supporters, come out and then fight against NPP supporters? What about PDYS supporters? What about other political leaders? Mama Kande and others. Come out and tell their supporters to really fight against other supporters. What are we going to have in the streets in the Gambia? And then the Minister of Information comes out and tells us that there is no political chaos in the Gambia, that there is political stability, when the president, the chief executive, the leader that everybody is supposed to be listening to, everybody is supposed to be inspired by, it's calling for political tension in the streets in the Gambia. That's what he is doing. And we have seen the result of that. We've seen the result of that. The saddest part about this whole thing is that some of these institutions that are supposed to be independent, like the police, right? They are listening to the president. They are arresting people for simply speaking. And we sit back and act like this is normal politics. Oh, he's an opposition. It's okay to arrest him. It's okay to detain him for 72 hours. He's insulting people here and there. Sooner rather than later, it's going to get to every one of us. This is what happened during Jammeh's time. And again, we mentioned this earlier, the same Jammeh operatives are the same people who are back in charge. You know, you see one of Barrow's videos that he was talking in Badibu, I think. I mean, it's so sad. This was in Badibu, right? It used to be the strong opposite of Mustafa. This was in Badibu. You can see Sidinja is smiling. You know, when Barrow was talking about
it may be my village. You know, they recently inaugurated a clinic, a hospital or a clinic there.
It was in your village, right?
It must
I mean,
Guys, let me just comment quickly because I need to go. Just make a quick contribution.
it wasn't very
I
serious.
think Barrow doesn't understand the term neutral, and then he's not familiar with the general orders and how the civil service operates. So he needs schooling on that. And I think his ministers and his advisors are doing him a lot of disservice on that note. Because as a civil servant, you are supposed to be neutral. You are not supposed to actively take part in politics. According to the GOs, you are not supposed to sow membership or take, executive positions in any political parties. But you can be a political sympathizer. Out of work, you do not have to go to political campaigns to show that I am an NPP supporter. If I am, let's say, a permanent secretary or deputy permanent secretary, I am prohibited by the general orders to do so. But when it comes to election, naturally, we all vote for the party that we believe has the right policies or has the right programs for us. So for him to say if anyone is neutral is an opposition, I think that is a misplaced belief. And secondly, he said his minister informed him. So that means he's relying on those ministers because they've got something against that person. So they will come around like Jammeh time, backstabbing, saying X hates you, they're saying this, they're saying that. And it's a lot of things that happen because it's like I get calls and I've got messages, they say, oh, you shouldn't be saying this. Why are you need to reconcile with Barrow? Why are you angry with Barrow? I said, I didn't have any problem with Barrow. I'm not angry with him. I am disappointed with his leadership. And I have a right to express how he needs to lead. Because if I love Barrow and I want him to have a successful legacy, I shouldn't just be clapping and cheering him on whatever he does. I need to show him what he needs to do right. And sometimes you have to come the hard way for the person to understand or to realize this is what is happening and this is what I'm doing. And I think the other point again is like most of us are not used to being supporting a party and holding a critical or a different opinion from the party or from the leader. And this is holding us back. That's why it's like in the Gambia, many people settle for some changes, like Mustafa indicated, about the roads. That is not only what Gambian needs to have a better way of life. Look at the cost of living. The prices are going up. What is, his government doing, to ensure some of these prices, are reduced? If you say they say, okay, this is a global issue, we know this is a global issue, but every reasonable government and serious government is making efforts to ensure they subsidize or they control some of those prices. What is he talking about, the pensioners? I remember Sana Sabali stating that when his dad retired, he was struggling severally to get his dad's retirement. But a week after they took over, I think someone from the Minister of Finance or wherever works on pensions came and said, this is your father's pension. So you can imagine, so deliberately, they must have
Suleiman.
yeah, sorry, I'm just talking here. So anyway, I have to let you guys I need to go because I've got some other things I'm looking after here.
Hey, Suleiman, it was a pleasure having you on the panel.
Thank
So
you.
thank you for your time today. Yeah, so Demba, when we go around today, I want to kind of mix it up a little bit. I'm gonna give phone number after our analysis. Have folks call in at the very end of our analysis, so that way because they've been
Let
talking
me
about.
let may I also add a little on what
No, go ahead, Mustafa.
Jen has said. I think that uh, the problem is that the president created a huge mistake. The president of Fulanso Bank Wakan, you cannot create for the presidency an equal. It's a mistake. The president is the person in charge of the country. He doesn't have an equal. He can't do what you do. He can't insult you because you insult him. That's above him, right? He doesn't have. So you can't create an equal. It's an insult to the dignity of the office to create an equal for the president, and that's what Barrow is doing. He's creating an equal for the president. He is in charge. It's not like he has. No, that has passed. That has passed after the elections. Now, the most important issue I want to highlight is that, when the president comes out and say that there are public servants who are sabotaging the government, the president is indicting his own inefficiency. Because the job of the president is to mobilize national resources, which is financial and human, to execute a goal that he set for the country. And so once you have clear roadmap and you have people you put to task to execute the agenda to achieve that clear goals, there is no excuse. They cannot be seen to be, you cannot go around that like me at the Republic. If I go out and say my reporters are not doing the job, it means then I'm incompetent. Because those reporters are working under me. I'm the one who conceived the story ideas. I am the one who put them through a pitch system where they pitch, do the preliminary research, bring it to me, I approve and say, go and do this story. Here is your budget. For your budget for the story and your payment after the story. If it is a freelance, if it's a staff, then your payment, right? So I can't go at the end of that story and now come and blame the reporter for the failure to deliver that story. It doesn't work like that because I am onto the story myself from the beginning, from the pitching to the draft, to the final draft. And that's the job of the president. The president is a supervisor. The president hires and monitors. He hires people, is a supervisor. He gives them a job and he monitors them execute that job. So if there is someone who out because of politics does not execute his job, that's the failure of the president. That's not the failure of the individual. And so that's what the president needs to, I think the president just needs to learn his job. It doesn't seem he knows how to do it. No, I mean, quite frankly, I'm respectful, but I don't think he knows what his job is. Because, how can they do it? How can you give people job and then you come and say, but they are not doing their job? Yes. Give them, you are the one, it's your job to make sure they do their job. Yes. But that is not to fire them. That is not to wait until they mess up. Because when they mess up, the public incur cost in so many ways. Absence from work is a cost. But also failure to do the work is a cost. So while you wait for people to fail, you are already incurring a cost the republic cannot afford. So why would you wait until you fail? That means you need to properly plan. And this is why now they have two offices. They have Office of the Secretary General. They have Office of the Public Service. issue of the Secretary General is almost is almost redundant. But the head of the office of the public service is there. Yeah, and you have these two offices, and I mean I don't know the public service boss, Mr. Boy. I have never had any reviews, but the reviews I've had of Salimatu, that's the Secretary General, has been very encouraging. But they created public service office, and now the office of the Secretary General, I'm not sure what they're doing anymore. Um, but then that's it, Saria. So this is how government operates. And so if we have president running around telling people are failing to do their job because of their political affiliations, then that's a big concern. And that's not a big concern for those people. It's a big concern for the competence of the supervisor himself. Yeah. That's what I think so. And that's the first issue. And the second issue is they need to have reform also. The current arrangements we have in the Gambia, you cannot do cosmetic changes, Saria. The system has been affected from independence to now. It's there's a reason why government they don't buy used vehicles. Government doesn't buy used vehicles because used vehicles have a problem. There's a problem with the oil, then you change that. Then there's a problem with the engine, you change that. Then there's a problem with the tire, you change that. You buy new vehicle. Now, the system had been corrupted and affected over a period. Government should not have adopted cosmetic changes, reforms here and there. No, there should have been what Barrow himself favorably said at the early days, an overhaul of the system. But there was no such thing. And you're going to go to have this over and over again, over and over again. And the president doesn't help it himself by being very much involved in some of those partition issues. I mean, the president is a politician, clearly. And the president has a job, has a political job. So, but the president has to see that fine line where politics ends and where national duty begins, because that mandate he is paid for. You see, and so those are the complex issues we are dealing with right now.
All right, all right. So Mustafa, while we're waiting on Denver to come in, I think our political environment becomes so toxic, and reaction, counter reaction, response, counter response, and it creates this dynamo whereby people are concerned. I saw a piece where I don't know which one, but I read it somewhere where they says 2026 there is trouble looming because of the way our political environment, and not particularly Barrow, but some of these utterances, like saying, I'm going to fire civil servants, militants can go ahead and fight their own rights. And I heard Ben Suarez say this, and then I was listening to it, and I went through his clip, and it was very interesting. He says he's not he's not really telling his militants to fight, but he's telling the police they can go after political opponents, and he has their back, which is which is very very interesting perspective. But why couldn't we as Gambians? Because 2026 we came together and form one, unified opposition against a brutal dictator and took him down. But now it seems like all that goodwill that brought us together somehow kind of, went away. I mean, it's just that we don't even remember those anymore. We all go after each other. We form alliances with folks that during the tough days that we were fighting, they were in concrete or concerted agreement with Jammeh. Everything that he was doing, there was not a single time they went on a public platform or they pushed back on Jammeh's atrocities. Today, as you rightfully said, the cosmetic dressing of our civil servant, our National Assembly, some of the higher positions, and so forth and so forth, and it's gravely concerning. And I think, where do we lost the track, and how do we regain this momentum and steer in a different direction?
We lost track from the beginning, Saria. I think that the politics of this country went off the rails in 2017 itself, when it became very toxic and people chose personal interest over the collective. And the reason why I'm saying that is because even the tension that existed between UDP and Barrow was largely personal. It was largely a fight between two individuals that was made and sold to people like a fight between principles and non-principles. There were no such thing. The fight between the two political leaders was just merely, I want to be president, I also want to be president. And that's the truth. I mean, whether people see it that way or not, but that's what happened. And so the problem started from the beginning. The problem that existed between UDP as a whole, when Barrow was involved also, and others, was also for personal. Because when things were right, had we insisted that reforms must happen and must happen now, when UDP and Barrow fell out, those reforms would still have been there. Before Barrow walks back on them, it would have taken time and we would have figured out something. But people didn't insist on the reforms there and then. And this includes a lot of people, including UDP itself. And so that is a mistake Gambians must avoid in the past. When we mean this, we genuinely mean it. And I'm not saying, I don't like this word genuine, because it sort of suggests that other people are more patriotic than others. No, I don't like to go there. But my point is that had UDP taking its rhetoric seriously, we wouldn't have gotten to this point. That's the first point to make. The second point to make is that Barrow, after his fallout with UDP, became terrified. And because Barrow, after UDP, couldn't possibly have a political camp that is going to defeat UDP, had he not bring APRC, it's not possible. It's practically not possible. Yeah, it's practically not possible. It's like when you take a child that you have asked not to use a gun to a desert where there is a gun and he's attacked by a, a, a lion, he's going to use a gun and kill the lion. It doesn't matter what you tell the child is terrified. He has to find a way to survive. Barrow was terrified. His way to survive was to hold on to APRC. Was it morally right or wrong? It was wrong. But then what should an afraid person do? This is a lesson that people need to think about. And when Gambians are very emotional right now, even within UDP itself, nobody wants to be retrospective. Nobody wants to sit down and see where UDP went wrong. Nobody wants to sit down and see where UDP leadership went wrong. Because for them, no, we were not wrong. Of course, well. But then Barrow also has to take responsibility. He's not a child. This is a guy who came from UK to come and set up a business. So Barrow also failed to take up his responsibility, shoulder his own responsibility. And until today, people are saying Barrow is not advised well, he's not doing this, that is not on people, that is on Barrow. Barrow surrounds himself with people who are telling him what he wants to hear. Barrow is not being poorly advised. Barrow is being rightly advised by people he had choose for the advices that he wanted them to give him. There is nobody misleading him. No. We have to hold people by individual responsibility and stop giving people excuses. Now, Barrow mess up, and others are also messing up. Now, have, we want to get, if we want to get on track, we will have to elevate the conversation. And by that, I mean, when someone sent me Ibrahim Adiba's audio, a colleague of mine, what I told him was, this is a waste of Ibrahim's time and also a waste of my time listening to it, but also a waste of the president's time, because you haven't said here anything very useful. You're just angry, and you went on an anger tantrum, and you said things that, well, there is nothing wrong with it in a democracy. In a liberal democracy like ours, Ibrahim should be free to express such opinion. But it's a waste of his time because those opinions are unproductive. They are not pointing out a flaw. They are not seeking to solve any problem. Now, but what is the problem? Why did Ibrahim do that? The president is the problem. The president went on a political platform and attacked Usainu Dabo, who is an elder statesman by Barrow's own recognition, not saying now, but before, and old enough to be Barrow's father. And Barrow says indirectly that al network that in our context would mean dementia. People don't like that kind of expression associated with their parents. And so when Barrow said that, Ibrahim, naturally, it would, as would anybody who considers Usainu a father, went on an anger tantrum and said, what? Well, I ordinarily, if I had known that's the content of the message, would not have listened to, because it's a waste of my time. It didn't say anything useful. But he was justified because he was responding to what he thought was a message that should not have been associated with Usainu, or should not have been authored against Usainu. Do you see the point? And that is why I said at the beginning that the president should know that the president has no equal in a republic. He is the one elected. Ibrahim Adiba is not elected. But the president is elected to serve everybody, and everyone he serves includes Usainu. Do you see what I mean? So the president knows Usainu is not his equal. Usainu has the right to criticize the ferry system. That's a legitimate right he has under the constitution and other laws of this country. Now, so if the president now takes that personal, and now, because when you said someone has lost a network, that has now nothing to do with response to the substance of Usainu's claims, which you could do, which you could even assign someone to do. So that is where we need to avoid. And what is the main problem? The main problem is we have not elevated the conversation. The conversation should be about issues affecting the people. And that's why I was saying what Ibrahim said, it's an unproductive conversation. Because it seeks to know, it does not address any problem. He was not talking about any problem that could solve anyone's problem, but he was responding angrily to a claim to what he considered an utterance, unbecoming utterance of the president against someone he revered. You see, now if we elevate the conversation to issues, and to issues affecting the people, we wouldn't be dealing with things like this. So that sedition would even be a law that's going to, we don't need a sedition. All that we need is to have a decent politics. And you cannot have a decent politics like a football game. You cannot bring Messi to come and play at Serakunda West Park because his level has passed that. But if you have politicians at the level of office of the president who have no formal education, only thing they can do is to call out people and insult them. This is the politics you are going to have. The only thing they can do is to say, I am ready to die. Nobody has to die in a republic. this is not this is not a fight between Ngalinkoi Sonko and some other guy. We don't have, you know, this is not that time. The time is who has a better idea to serve the country at the level of the government, and who has a much better idea to replace that individual. And that's what politics is about. Barrow claims to have a much better idea. Barrow is voted, and he claims to have an idea to execute to help liberate this country, both economically, socially, and politically. And Usiano claims to have a much superior idea. Now, those people certainly have something to talk about, and that's their ideas. So it did not have to descend to Ushenu doesn't have a network. You're saying Ushenu has dementia. Nobody would take that as a very polite word towards your father. And suddenly when Ibrahim also reacted, and he said things that would be similar to what Barrow said about Ushenu. And Barrow now get him, well, you could say Barrow get him arrested, or he's arrested because he said that about Barrow. Because sedition simply means he said this about the president. Do you see what I mean? So we know how to solve this problem, but we have to elevate the conversation beyond the Dusano level. Because, sorry, Saria, only thing Du can do is to insult, is to say this, is to talk about people. I mean, have you ever sat down and look at all those advisors Barrow have at the presidency to talk about the complex issues of this republic? Like, how? Like it's going to be a miracle. So for you to elevate the conversation, you have to have players. That is why I talked about Messi. You cannot elevate Gambia's league with the current set of players that are there. If you want to elevate the league, you import players that have the standard at playing at the level where the league is expected to be. Saudi Arabia, when they wanted a better league, they've started importing bigger players and elevate the conversation. You cannot have a conversation with Rambo, because Rambo, all that he says is parallel. That is not, this is not a war between Ngalinkoi Sonko and Kelafa Sane. This is not that. This is not Sirifudibas time where you need to wear a lot of charms around your waist to. This is an economy that is, it's an economy that is dying and needs people who have sense, think, even for the sake of it, to save it. So you don't need people to be very brave. You only need people to be sensible. And that's it. We need to have a conversation. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Mustafa. Hey, Demba, what is your take? I don't know whether you heard.
Yeah, no, I mean, I had trouble there a little bit, getting in and out. I mean, exactly what Mr. Fai said, what we're dealing with is a very, very serious matter. And people take this to be politics as usual, or they're just arresting an opposition and all that kind of stuff. I mean, what bothers me the most, if the person who occupies the highest office on the land, the people who everybody is supposed to look up to, it's hell bent on just getting into the weeds and just insulting elderly people. Forget about Usenu being your father or whatever. The reason why Ibrahim is arrested is because they say that he insulted the president. Is that right? How many people are out there insulting other elderly people in the country? And the president is the leader. He's the leader who is inciting violence. He's the leader who is provoking people. If you provoke people and they react to your provocation, what do you expect? So what Mustafa is saying, it's very, very right. It's like we need to elevate the game. We need some serious people to govern our country, to understand that what's happening to Ibrahim could happen to every one of us. Ibrahim is a father. Ibrahim is a student. They are wasting his time. Ibrahim is a businessman. They arrest him and they detain you for 72 hours and they charge you for sedition. And by the way, it's not only Ibrahim. There's another guy that was arrested, Silla, who in fact said that anybody that Barrow promotes dies. It is equivalent to what the president is saying. President standing in front of the whole nation instead of the whole world and just provoking and just, I mentioned this earlier, every time Barrow signs, the only time when he signs and he starts smiling, he starts, beating his chest is when he is on the political platform. What happened to addressing our youths? What happened to setting the tone as a leader of our country? What happened to all of the challenges that we're facing every single day? You go to the traffic light and you see all the beggars standing there. And the president is in the grassroots, it's in the weeds, insulting elderly people. When you talk about these things, they talk about you being, okay, you are sympathetic to UDP or you are whatever. He hasn't only insulted the the UDP leader. He has insulted, every time you insult an elderly person, you are insulting your own parents. You are insulting every person who is listening to you. And you expect the children to look up to you. This is very, very serious. And the Gambians, we have to take this very, very seriously, Syria. We have to understand that what the president is doing it's not. I mean, and Ibrahim Sankare and others go sit down at West Coast Radio and tell us that people are out there now, able to speak their minds, and we justify that. This is very, very serious. And I saw Madi Jobate chronicled, all the arrests from 2017 to now, including FPRC, including what happens to one person is happening to all of us. What happened to Ibrahim could happen to you, could happen to me, could happen to anybody else. And the thing, they've been successful in doing this before. They were able to convert Mamadou Sabali into NPP, and they arrested him and intimidated him so many times. They arrested Dr. Sise and intimidated him so many times. They convert those people into their support. That's why they are doing this. But I think this time they got the wrong person, though. Because this Ibrahim has been there since he was young, in his teenage years. There are certain people that you break down. There are certain people that you cannot break. And just Gambia is just mind-boggling when everything we look at it from a political angle. You look at the commentaries, people are saying, "Oh, he's UDP, he's out there insulting everybody." The presidency, very, very few people in the country or in the world are privileged to become presidents. When you occupy that position, you are above a lot of people. You are above almost everybody. The whole country look up to you. You're supposed to set the tone. And President Barrow is just somebody that does the bare minimum. The bare minimum. I call him, he just occupied that seat and then he warmed the seat. That's what he's doing. The bare minimum is what he's doing. But what he's doing is very, very serious. He's inciting violence. And the international community need to pay attention to this. The Human Rights Commission need to pay attention to this. The Bar Association need to pay attention to this. Civil society group need to pay attention to this. That what the president is doing is inciting violence. Because today, if you were to mobilize and go to Banjul police station or go to Kanifing, wherever Ibrahim is, and they start to, to mobilize, what is going to happen? And we shouldn't act as this is normal. And after this is over, people are supposed to file lawsuits against the government for wrongful arrest. They're going to drop these charges and everybody act like, oh, it is normal for the president, for the police to arrest people. The IGP and all these people said it. This is very, very serious and we need to take it seriously. And every Gambian need to be offended about what is going on. And again, it's just, you cannot just imagine, everything we're like, you know what, you can trample on the right of everybody else as long as they're opposition. How many NPP supporters are out there online insulting people? Where were they arrested? When were they arrested? This country, we're trending on very, very dangerous grounds, and we keep acting as it is normal. It's one thing after another. We need to elevate the conversation, as Mustafa said, but we cannot elevate the conversation with mediocracy people occupying the highest position in the land. Getting people who are advising you, who just all they understand is just perhaps wrestling or maybe just there's nothing else. And the president is acting the same way, and everybody acts as if this is normal. This is very, very serious. And we need to call it out. And, they've come after the media. They've come after political opponents. They've come after everybody else. And it's not going to end there. This is what happened during Jammeh's time, right? And then the people who are, sitting there and everybody, became victim in the end. We need to really take this very, very seriously. After Ibrahim is released, they need to, they will drop the charges. They need to institute lawsuits, wrongful detention, wrongful, arrest. The government even has compensated people that were wrongfully arrested. The Human Rights Commission were leading those things. People, we reported this so many times. People were compensated for being wrongly arrested, and they continue to do the same thing. It is just, it's just not acceptable at all, and we need to stop it. I don't know how we are going to stop it. But it needs to stop. It needs to stop. Sorry.
All right, Demba. Thank you very much. I think I agree with you guys wholeheartedly, and I think what I see this whole thing about Barrows claiming that he's the only lion killer, and thinking of those who have passed away. I mean, who fought the fight, and today they are no more, right? And things that they actually fought for, we've seen them replaced by the folks that were against that principle in the first place. And those are the ones who are the face of this struggle that ushered Barrow into the presidency. And in terms of Ibrahim, as Mustafa said, Barrow said a lot of stuff, and during campaign, we are coming to a rainy season. We don't know what the plan is for the farmers. But when you stand in front of the cameras or at a political rally, if someone challenges you, an opposition figure for that matter, says the ferry, was not that's a fact. The ferry has not been operating for a long time. That's a fact. Provide alternatives or solutions to the Gambian to say, this is what it is. This is what I'm doing. But I think lack of elevation, lack of elevating our conversation and creating a national dialogue or a theme around how we need to, drive our country in a totally different, fundamentally different direction. It's a problem. It's all about political aggrandizement, right? Everything that he says is chest pounding. People, not people who have the knowledge and technical know-how, but people who pledge allegiance to him. And this is just the political playbook Jammeh deployed. So as Gambians, and even here, we're here sitting down talking, and people are trying to make this issue about Juliet and Romeo, UDP versus Barrow. This is not what it is. Like what Ibrahim is. If you know Ibrahim is a very patriotic Gambian, right? He's been there fighting it, all the protests in Seattle. He's at the forefront. This has nothing to do with it. Well, when the president stood and says something utterly dishonest and insulting to an elder, someone goes in there and responds. Now, because he says the hospitals, the police stations, they all belong to him. That's what this man is saying. Not that the Gambian people own these things, but he said that. And I think that is something that is dear to his heart. And that's how he's muscling and running this country. And I think it's up to folks to stand up, to see that injustice. The arrest of Ibrahim, as you guys said, it can happen to me. It can happen to you, Demba, because the plan is they wanted to silence the dissenting voices. Even some of his advisors, when they sit on those platforms, they keep saying they brand media houses as opposition mouthpiece. They brand people who have a high profile in an opposition party as an opposition. Well, this whole opposition, it becomes a poisonous, jargon. But it was through this opposition that us Barrow in the presidency in the first place. Yes, we lost track, but we can regain. We need to stand up and fight against this injustice. Because you know what? His current minister of information called Barrow clueless. He called him all the kind of stuff. Why didn't now he's appointed minister?
Mamadou Sabali call him all kind of names. Now these are all. What? How about Ibrahima? What is Ibrahima? What did Ibrahima say that is different in what Dr. Cisse said? I mean, this double jeopardy that we're entrenched in, and folks turn a blind eye. When it is not your family member or you don't know this person, then you come out and blame it on the. No, it's not. Us has to come. We have to come and kind of talk about these things and resolve it. So Ibrahim is being detained, and there's charges, and I think everyone, including the political party he belongs to, UDP, needs to fight this. It's just injustice. Why? What gave Barrow the right to stand on a political platform and say he's going to fire civil servants? What gave Barrow the right to say his militants that you stand firm, fight for your right? I can't do it alone. If they say fight back, you have my backing 100%. He said all these things. I mean, comparing, the opposition bureaus with NAR boutiques, it's a totally disgusting utterance. It doesn't matter whether it's just low ball for a president. And I think that's where this conversation centers around. All right. But the last part that I want us to talk about before we're gonna have the phone number for folks to call in and contribute and talk to us, because today I want to kind of change a little bit. We've been talking for a while. So, but Mustafa, the other thing is there is rainy season coming up. We don't know what the plan is for the farmers. There's a lot of construction going on around the country as well. And if it's not completed and rainy season comes in, it's so inconvenient for folks. I haven't heard a plan, a response in terms of those issues. I didn't hear the Minister of Agriculture talk about the government plan for farmers this season. I didn't hear. All he does was taking a political jab at his opponents. I mean, it kind of brings the central question of who we are as people and how we wanted to trend that country, and how we want, in terms of creating a national dialogue or theme towards solving those challenges. And I don't know what your takes is on that one.
On the first series of lamentations you had there about the primus arrest, I think that what is happening in the Gambia, it's a product of our politics. Not just what government is doing, but also what opposition are doing. Opposition are not organized. They are poorly governed. And they have more or less the same issues that the government has. If you don't see this, then I don't think you're looking. And that's why also things that are happening are happening. Like, for example, if there is a proper series of structures in place, the issue of Ibrahim's arrest would have been openly addressed, not what they're doing behind the doors, out in the open, addressed, as we've seen it in other progressive democracies. There and then, immediately he's arrested at the airport. The what the political party concerned should have been doing would have been in the public place from one step to the rest. But yeah, but things are the way they are anyway. I'm not a member of political parties, so I'm not obliged to be very angry about that. But anyway, the other issue is that um, uh, regards to agriculture and what Ministry of Agriculture is doing. We've never had a plan for agriculture. In the Gambia, there are donor supports. What Gambia government has been doing is a routine from independence to now. When agriculture is coming, you provide farmers with some seeds as you have them. If you don't have them, then they buy it for themselves. Mostly from donors. If you have them from donors, you buy them seeds. Or you buy fertilizer and you give them fertilizer, which is mostly made from factory made fertilizers. After that, they produce. When it's rice, they take it to their houses. When it's groundnut, you buy them and take it to GGC, often at giveaway prices. And government complaints of aflatoxin, that we can't generate profit from this fertilizer, from this groundnuts. For sesame, this has died. This is what we've been having from independence to now. Even when Jawara had so-called agricultural bank, it failed because farmers could not pay. Farmers could not pay the loans that were given to them by agricultural bank, because one, you cannot have an agricultural bank giving loan to farmers who are subsistent. They are merely barely struggling for profit, or to have enough to eat. Climate change has come in. Agricultural extension is doing a little work. There is no much productivity. There is no much higher capital investment into production. Unless a farmer is doing a commercial scale production, if you give them money, you are setting them for failure. And so Jawara, naturally and predictably, the agricultural bank failed, collapsed on its belly, because it's giving loan to subsistent farmers who have very little help and very little productivity. They can barely make enough to eat, let alone repay a loan. Like, what kind of educated people do we have? And so it collapsed. In the end, they went and confiscated some people's tractors, some people's donkey carts, some people's donkeys, and sell them. But how do you recover such loan? And then the bank collapsed. This has been the problem with Gambia's agriculture from then. Now, what's the solution? Like, I am a different, I think that there's a socialist solution to Gambia's problems. Now, what Gambia government is doing is that it mobilizes huge amount of resources in the form of bank credits that is on the republic for certain businessmen to go into agriculture. These are capitalists. What is their goal? Their goal in agriculture is to make profit. When they go into agriculture with the money that we have either given them directly, or we have as a bank credit, we have allowed them to, we have granted them through a bank credit, and we have provided them the collateral to have access to those funds. So meaning, even if they default, if they fail to pay, we will pay. So in other words, the money is coming from us, it's coming from the republic. We give this businessmen, and this is already in the public. And these businessmen are the ones who are going into rice production and other production. For what? For profit. When they make the rice production, now, according to the current statistics, we are consuming little over 200,000 tons of rice. And how much are we producing? Around 46 tons, when the yield is very high, 46,000 tons. How much are we sort of? 154,000 tons minimum. So we are counting on this capitalist, crony capitalist businessmen who have been mosquitoes on government from day one to provide. I'm not referring to the people they've given, specifically given loans to. I'm referring to businessmen in the Gambia. Businessmen in the Gambia don't generally go into agriculture or capital-intensive things like that, that are in long-term, a lot are long-term in nature, long-term investments in nature, because agriculture, you just don't go there today and you get the money today. So most of the businessmen, they are going into procurement and others. The reason why now all of them, or most of them, are finding the need to go there, it's because we've given them that access. And the question is, we're giving them the money. Who are also shareholders in those projects? Do we know? We don't. These days, people have shareholders, and I can own a company and register another son of mine who is a shareholder, but the beneficial owner is somebody else. but I can use the state to get them resources. Now, but that's besides the point, because let's leave speculations to other people. Now, these people are going to generate rice or other products, other agricultural products for profit. And when they take them to the market, what do economists say? They said in economics, market forces determine the price. And who are the market forces? People with money. And so what do poor people do? Poor people whose money you have used to give rich people bank credit to go and do agriculture. What do they now do? Well, we can't do anything. The prices have to be determined by market forces. Now, what could government do? Gambia government has squandered a lot of opportunities. Now, you have seen, for example, under COVID, let's just take few examples, because we're not supposed to be senseless people. When somebody from America says socialism is bad, socialism is this, communism, they are bringing China here, we're supposed to think for ourselves. Now, suppose you take Gambia government took $850 million. $850 million. Within few days, they mobilized it. They went to parliament, they mobilized this money. They went and give it to folks. They mobilized their own friends. They brought rice. They bought rice. They brought both rice and vegetable oil for families. That's what they claim. This was all riddled with corruption. You can go and read about it in the COVID audit, which is already on the website of the National Audit Office. They squander 850 million. Now, by rough, just on top of your mind, collect $850 million. 150 million sort of $1 billion, and give it to saving, let's say, how many regions we have? We have 7 regions. Give it to 2 people. Give 100 million to each 2 people. Yeah, let's say $2 million to 2 people, and help support them with the capacity from agricultural department or Ministry of Agriculture, and make agricultural extension workers available to them, make NARI available to them, make all our facilities available to them, and support them, and bring area councils in the fore and say, look, let's help these people with land. And these people register a business, support them with an accountant, support them with the structure, tell them, go into business. We are giving you this money for free. Free. I'm not saying give it to them. You know, this 850 million you have spent on rice, people have spent it, people have ate it in 2 weeks and it's finished. 2 weeks, minimum bag of rice in a family, 2 weeks, maximum 1 month, it's finished. Now give these people money and say, well, this money, we're going to be giving you to free, but you're going to be registered. You're going to be registered with GRA and formally as a business. We're going to be managing this as a business. Let them go into horticultural produce. In 5 years, you will have enough horticulture in the Gambia, sufficient for the country and for export. That is how much money, the money that could do that, that is what they've squandered in 2 weeks. Why would they do this other one? Because when they do it, they elevate people. They make sure the agriculture is more productive. They make sure some couple of young people are into business, and they make sure these young people are going to pay more in taxes in 3 years, probably more than the whole of 850 million. You would recover it. I'm saying give it to them for free. Just help them. You would have recovered that money in 4 years or 5 years in taxes alone, and not to talk of cheap products, because cheap produce, because government is going to be a shareholder in this venture, and people are going to be also. But if you tell them, no, state cannot do business, this is a socialist view. State cannot do business. State has GNPC, and they wreck it. GNPC, what are they doing business? This is how fools think. State cannot do business. NAWEC is doing business. What is their goal? Profit. State cannot do business. Gamtel is doing business. What are they selling? Internet. State cannot do business. I mean, people are telling us things. It's like somebody tells you human being does not exist and you are living with a human being and you entertain it. You see, so agriculture has never had thorough thinking here. Subsistent agriculture will never, has never in any country provide enough for the consumption of the farmer and for the consumption of the market and for the need and fulfill the need for export. It has never happened. Not in Gambia. It will never happen in China. It has never happened anywhere in the world. Agriculture has to be commercial in nature, but this commercial does not also have to be overzealously profit-making venture, where you leave it to chronic capitalism. In the end, when poor people come, you say, well, go. The market forces have to determine the price. That's not how it works. So if you ask me, we've never had a good an agricultural policy. That's my view. But then they will dismiss this because this is, of course, a stupid view of a socialist.
So, Sariam, I mean, obviously, I mean, I would have a little bit of a different perspective in terms of the investments towards agriculture in the Gambia. While I agree that some kind of socialist system should work in our country, I think what Mustafa highlighted in the latter or in the end is what we're supposed to do to get out of the situation that we're in. We're supposed to take some money. Right now, what the government is doing is they're taking that money and they're giving it in terms of subsidies for people who import rice. Let's say they give $2 million to a businessman, Abubakar Jawad or somebody, to import rice. Instead of importing that rice from somebody else, because what you are doing is that you are financing somebody else's economy to produce and then send it over to you, why not invest that in our country? As Mustafa mentioned earlier, if they were to go into the 5 regions or the 7 regions and help, because we have some young businessmen who are in the business of agriculture right now. I'm very, very passionate about agriculture. I post this all the time on my social media. Agriculture, I mean, farmers are some of the richest people in the world, around the world. If these people are financed, because one of the reasons what Mustafa talked about why the agricultural bank failed is because they were giving loans to people who could not pay them. So again, take those loans, take those monies and give it to people who are investing in the economy. And when there is enough production of rice, as he outlined earlier, that is going to dictate the prices on the market. Yes, this government should always be there to make sure that they supervise, independent businesses who are overzealous and who are out to make profits. But these are our own citizens. And some of these people are supposed to reinvest back into the economy. And if we produce enough, then we would not be able to, we would not go through all this hardship that we're going with. And again, we have to shift from subsistence agriculture to commercial agriculture. The rainy season is just beginning, as you are talking about. What if the rain did not come? What if it doesn't rain? How are we going to survive? Import rice, import corn, import couscous, everything else. We have water everywhere in the country. You can access clean drinking water everywhere in the country. Why wait for the natural rain to come? What if it doesn't come? So, but again, look at how they are trying to address the problem. Who is the Minister of Agriculture? He's a pharmacist. He's a pharmacy tech. And agriculture actually has some of the highest educated folks that we've ever had in agriculture during Jammeh's time and all that. I don't know, most of those people have retired. But we could never break through to producing our own food. And it's because there is no investment, there is no interest. Agriculture has been, and this happens way back during the PPP. Okay? I know some families used to have 10 bags of rice during the rainy season. Tuse mano, 10 bags of rice. So agriculture was de-incentivized. People were demotivated not to go into farming because at the end of the day, even if you produce a granite, for example, you could not sell your granite. It started way back in the PPP. They start giving you IOU notes. So half of the year, the agriculture would have the money or would not have the money to pay those farmers. And they were young graduates from high school. Suitcase or briefcase, they had briefcases full of cash. They're organizing, rattling jamborees in the provinces, giving all kind of parties, cash. That's what was being done at the time. That's how they kill agriculture in the Gambia. It was killed during Jawara's time. There's no question about it. So we have young Gambians or Gambians who want to go into agriculture. Government provide the incentives. Some of these things are very, very, very basic. I went, when I was there in December, I highlighted some young Gambians, like Yusfa Barrow. I mean, who has his own garden, 50 by 50. He produces oranges by himself. He doesn't have access to capital. If the banks can give him a loan, help him, he doesn't even have a borehole in there. He's doing manual kolongole. He's got a 10 more fan acre. And he's producing, he's harvesting twice a year. There's another guy, a Jata, you've seen him, I mean, again, around the Gunjur area, producing a lot of these things. So what we need is to provide the capital, to provide access, and then have the government, as he mentioned earlier, have the agri demonstrators, have the the agri experts be with these people, and allow private citizens, the private sector to produce. When they produce enough, and the people are able to, they don't have to spend all that money. I mean, right now, if you go to my village, for example, right, they're not buying onions anymore because of the garden that we provided for them. Imagine they have onions, they have pepper, they have potatoes, they have all these things. How much money do they spend at the market? Not much money. Our solution is that we need to invest where it is the most productive sector of our society. And again, it's not only the government. Even the opposition is not doing much about it. I mean, I know UDP had a plan that saying the Mobutu or whatever agriculture, 10% of it you invest into agriculture, 10% of the budget. How much will we invest in agriculture? It's not there. And these are solutions that are right there in our fingertips for us to be able to address. But we're not addressing them because, again, I mean, it's backward thinking. But I have a belief that if you engage the private sector and you have an effective government monitoring, I think we can produce enough to feed our people, enough all year round. You don't have to wait for the rain to come for you to harvest corn or to do your rice. Invest, allow the private sector to invest, provide funding for them to be able to invest in it. And again, that money that came for COVID, it was not supposed to go to government. Anytime you give it to government, they just some of the richest young ones in the Gambia, or the richest ones in the Gambia, are people who are project managers. They squander these things, this money like crazy. It's like they don't care. And most of these people are from the provinces. They were born there. They know about agriculture. Their parents could not even pay for their school fees, and yet nobody seems to just be able to address our issues. We have a solution. And the socialist system is not definitely our solution. I believe that a combination of a socialist system. I mean, even in the United States, which is one of the wealthiest nations around the world, we have both a socialist system and a free market system. A free market system combined with social responsibility, caring about our citizens, would go a long way to address our problems. Thank you very much.
Let me just add that you see this inefficiency, you see the corruption, the inefficiency, the lack of willingness to go into any area productive. It's not an accident. See, inefficiency, this corruption, it's also its own model. When you fail to do the right thing, the wrong thing becomes the right thing. It's by failing to create a system, it's in itself system. So the one we have currently is not without beneficiaries. The people in charge of this system currently, it's working for those. It's just not working for the country. So it's not that there is no beneficiary of this current arrangement. And that's the problem. Until the people who are not benefiting, which is the larger public, recognize the need to take over their country because it's benefiting a tiny minority, then we will continue to be like this. This is not an accident. This is a system of its own. It's not that we don't have a system. We just have a flawed system which is created by people to remain this way, but to profit a certain group of minority. And that's what it is. And the fresh water you talked about, half of River Gambia is fresh water anyway. You don't need to take it from it. It doesn't need to be groundwater. River Gambia itself is fresh water. Yeah, so they know. I mean, we've been here for 55 years. We've called this place Gambia. All of us know what the problems of this country are. We don't need intellectual, educated people. Like everyone is educated. We've lived experience for 55 years, so we all know. We just don't fix it because it's working for people who are in charge of it. And the people who are not in charge of it, they are saying we are weak, we are incapable, we don't have power, so they can do anything. Like the president can just do anything and get away with it because there is no price the president pays for messing up. The minister can mess up because there is no price he pays for messing up. Macky Sall, had Usman Sonko not put up a brick wall between him and third term, he would have gotten a third term because that's what he wanted. He branded him a terrorist, all kind of thing, violent guy, but that is how it works. If they, and I told even journalists, I told them the last time, if they are calling you an opposition journalist, it's because you're doing the right thing. Keep doing that. Keep being an opposition journalist. Because the system, the president and the government does not need a praise singer. They have enough of it. You know, they have GRTS, they have National Daily, they have their Facebook pages, they have all the newspapers and all the televisions and all the radios in the Gambia, because when the president speaks, it's news. So if you are an independent journalist, be an opposition journalist. That's what your job is. You see? So, but they create this kind of, because the people who are in charge of the system, profiting from it, just wish for the rest of us to be subjugated. And they find other means, whether to break you verbally, or to use force to break you, or to condition you, you know, into some kind of mental slave. And so that's how all these things come about. And the Gambian people will have to educate themselves, because, I mean, all these things are not an accident. We have elected a president who until recently was struggling to buy an Infinity. Barrow had to barter his land for a vehicle which cost $400,000, right? But when Barrow declared in his first declaration at the IEC, he owned 16 cars. Vehicle nobody need. I don't need 16 cars. I don't even have one, but I don't need 16 cars. No one needs 16 cars, but that's what Barrow had. Someone who struggled to buy an Infinity. In fact, in Barrow's own description, I need to have this because oppositions need to look dignified. This is what Barrow said. So Infinity, which cost $400,000, was a huge thing for Barrow at that time. You know, he had a couple of compounds. Now he had built a villa in Mankamankunda, and he had built series of compounds. He had 2 villas at Taft Estate, which he declared, and he had number of millions in his account. Now the question is, the president's total income in a year is 13,500,000. That is if we calculate it by the current arrangement. Not when we calculate, because Barrow's salary was 170,000 a month for some time. But when we calculate it by the current arrangement, which is 255, I think, a year, a month, it would be 13.5 million. How did he manage to have 16 vehicles and build a villa that he valued for 15 million and other things I have not enumerated? How? But the same president, when he comes to power, poverty level in this country was 48%, and now it's 53%. Do you see the point? And these are conversations that people need to have. Gambia is worse than Barrow has found it. No, but Barrow, ironically, is rich. And Gambia, that he was voted to take care of, is poorer than he has found it. I mean, but I'm talking about human development. I'm talking about poverty level. I'm talking about hunger. Now, if you tell me 3 in every 5 Gambians you've met on the street lives below $2 a day, which means they cannot buy 2 loaves of bread, mayonnaise, and 3 eggs. That's the dire situation in the country. And I'm not talking about having some nice Badibunka food to eat. I'm talking about they can't have food. Do you see the point? Now, the people will have to recognize their own state and say, look, end of. We have lived in this situation for 55 years. Jawara comes, he flat us with Singapore dream, and he passed. Jame came, he flat us with Singapore dreams, he passed. Barrow came, he flat us with bunch of NDP, this, that, and that. Now it's NDP, green NDP, I don't know what NDP. And he is passing. But what have the Republic gained? Half of the country. So you have to ask yourself, how many people are we able to lift out of poverty? Compared to how many people do we produce in addition? Like how many people get born, how many people leave school to go into labor market and not get jobs? How many people get born every year? How many people do we lift out of poverty every year? How many jobs do this economy create every year? If you compare that to how many jobs, how many people pour into the job market yearly, you will realize that by the current trend, even nobody, an angel should not be able to convince you that we have a sense of direction. And so this is the problem. Now, and that is why I said empowering this chronic capitalist called private sector already over empowered by a bankrupt economy should not happen. Should not happen. These people are not rich because they have produced anything. If you want to be rich, go and produce a mobile phone like Steve Jobs did, or go and create Microsoft Word like Bill Gates did. You cannot hide behind government procurement or government vehicles, or hide behind all these lazy procurement processes to make millions. And this is how rich people have become rich in this country. These are not rich people. These are vampires who have fed on the blood of poor people, and they've become rich. They've not invented anything. They relied on lazy government kickbacks to be rich. And that's what majority of people. And that's why, for me, state needs to invest. If it has to do that with its own poor people, we can't run sort of poor people. It's enough if somebody gets. Our task is not to create billionaires. Our task is to create an economy that feeds everybody living in this country. Our task is not to create millionaires. It's not our job. Our job is to make sure every Gambian is able to eat, go to the mosque and pray, or go to the church and pray. That's our job. Our job is to create. And when you can sleep, that's what our job is. And that's not a very difficult thing to do. But we couldn't do it because to do that, this inefficient, corrupt economy, which few rely upon, will have to die. To create an efficient economy, this inefficient, pro-rich economy has to die. And rich people are the ones sponsoring the political candidates. You see what I mean? We don't have a kind rich guy, you know. Rich people just business guys just do business. Yeah. It's like me. I mean, you come to me and give me money. I look at it. If you are some struggling working class who likes my job and you come to me and donate to to the Republic, I take it. But you are some rich guy, you donate to the Republic. I wouldn't take that. Because rich folks, business people into business, they don't do they do for profit. Everything a rich guy does is within the business setup. It's profit. So the poor people has to see that. And the poor people are the folks who vote. And those people need to have the capacity to now take their political leaders to task, whether it's Barrow or the opposition. The folks in UDP need to hold the UDP leadership to account and tell them how much money have you raised for campaign in 2021? Have you audited this money? Where is the audit report? Why isn't anyone doing that in the opposition? They need to ask them that. They need to prove that that money they've donated to them has gone into hiring vehicles, what they claim has gone into hiring vehicles. They need to audit them. The cards that the parties are selling, how much cards have you sold? Where is that money? They need to ask them that. And so when we get accustomed to holding our leaders to account and know that politics is not making other people baraka, politics is bread and butter issue. And that is not for you to take care of Mustafa Akedabo. No, it's for you to take care of yourself. And so in every political decision you make should be a selfish one. And the people need to understand that, because, I mean, we've been here for 55 years. It's too long a time for any people to learn and to look at our past trend and say, look, we've been doing the same thing over and over again, and it's not working. Let's hold on a minute. Let's try something else. It doesn't matter if we call it a stupid idea. Let's try it and see whether that one will work, because the one we are doing is already stupid anyway, because it's not working. So it can't get any more stupid, can it? What we're doing is stupid, definitely stupid. We all know. So it can't get any worse. But we have to change the course.
Yeah, Mustafa, we got the first caller, and caller, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, can they hear me?
Can you guys hear him?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. They can hear you.
Well, yes, sorry, and greetings to my brother Demba and Mustafa Swandi, and Suleiman, who was on the platform a while ago, and then he had to go take care of some important errands. I think you guys have touched on quite a lot of areas that are concerning to the average citizen. The most important of which is the inflation cost and how things are so expensive. And Demba has talked about that. It is very emotional that you go to Gambia now, it's difficult for you to enjoy yourself because you see so many people struggling. And that should be the overarching issue of President Adama Barrow and his government. What was the purpose of my election? If there would be a question in his head, what was the purpose of my election? And why did I negate the 3 years and indicated I was going to stay for 5 years? Because the Constitution gave me the power or the right. And then he went into elections, which the question becomes now. We've heard from Dr. Mane giving some tangible evidence last Sunday as to why these elections were claimed to have been rigged. That is out there. The jury is out. But the question he should be asking himself when he wakes up in the morning and goes to bed is, have I made people's lives better today? Have I made the lives of the average citizen much better than what it was yesterday? What are my yardsticks of measuring my progress? Not these road constructions, which Mustafa has said. These are not things that you make policies on and dwell upon. Anyone can construct roads. And how effective and good are these roads? If the Mane guy who is in charge of the road authority can spend his time going after women folk who pay taxes, who are the drivers of the economy, and Denver knows this, you guys know that, are being driven and just chased around town, kicked and arrested, women folk, the ones who usually would be paying for our schools. If I was in the Gambia as a young man, or any of you guys, Mustafa, we all know this, our parents were doing hawking. They were selling stuff on the street to help subsidize our dad's money for fixed money and the uniforms that we were wearing. The lunch food that they gave us. Top construction would not have been top construction today and a successful mogul at that. If his mom was not doing the things that Adama Barrow finds repugnant, using money to go about chasing our women folk and our mothers all around town, accusing them of violating the law. So the question needs to be, where is he holding himself, Adama Barrow? What is Adama Barrow's yardstick? Is he holding himself accountable? Again, we can chronicle, and these records are there. How many things has he violated? You bring the issue of the arrests that are being done. My question is, what laws are in the books that gives Adama Barrow the authority to seek to arrest an individual for making a comment that he may find insulting? What laws are there? If there are laws, how does Adama Barrow go about doing that? Should he go to a court? Because these are not national security threats where you can immediately arrest the person, because failing to do so would be a threat to national security. But what gives Adama Barrow the right to arrest people who are political opponents, who tell him what he needs to do, that he is not doing what he was elected to do, in the case of Madi Jobate and Dr. Cisse, of all people? What gives Adama Barrow the right to say to an IGP, go and arrest so-and-so and lock him up? Not only do they arrest these people, which is a violation, I believe, we know this, you have to be able to go to a court and say, so-and-so needs to be arrested, and have the court give you an arrest warrant to go arrest the person. You can invite them to the police station, and they show up, and then you can say, you are on arrest. But they have to seek an injunction. They have to seek something from the courts to hold you. And especially holding people beyond 72 hours, which is another violation of their rights. So these are things that he himself, who should be the master of our constitution, Adama Barrow is the chief authority of our laws and for law enforcement. He should be the first to set an example. But he's not doing these things. So you can chronicle all these issues that I think are the problems. But I think this deflects on him with Adama Barrow. He's very good at it. Now, incompetence does breed incompetent results. And the fact that us Gambians have allowed to put somebody at the helm of our affairs who seems to not have learned after 8 years of how to govern our country. And he's bringing our thought process to that level. This is what he's doing. If you have a very intelligent president, Jammeh with all of these cases and all the violations he's done, you can judge him as pretty smart in some cases in what he was doing.
We can hear him now. Did the call drop?
That we have issue in terms of keeping this government afloat. We have heard and we have seen this. They're taking money. According to Juka and these Barrow Musgrove, they've recorded an amount of like $400 or $600 million that has come into this country from January to date. And what did they do when they heard this? I heard they said they've been giving people, families who are struggling, $8 million. Out of that amount of money, what has the government spent that money on? The deflection, I believe, that Adama Barrow is doing, we were calling him on the division that he's creating, insulting Usainu Dabo, and calling the UDP the name that we called them. Instead of addressing that issue and apologizing, there's deflection here. If this guy responds and he comes over here, let's arrest him, because what we're going to do is we're going to change the direction of the conversation. Now it's going to be nothing but about Ibrahim Adiba. And pretty soon you will hear another issue come up. We have seen Adama Barrow do this. Now, Saria, there's an issue with the cement imports. There's an embargo that people are not able to buy cement because of what he just did. Taking $50 million in your name, in my name, and giving it to Yahweh, instead of investing in agriculture as you guys were talking about. If we went out to this company, the guy that is growing rice, and say, we're going to invest in buying you new equipment for you to be able to produce more rice, in which case we will reduce our import. That is going to save government money. So there are people who are doing things independently on their own. Actually, like Senegal, you have businesses who have been established where the government is taking money and investing to help those businesses grow. And it creates jobs. He went out to say he's going to visit industry. Faria, do we have any industry in Gambia? The last I checked was Jubu is gone, GPMB is dead, and even this Sankung Silla guy's business is not functioning. Chalarams and all these companies that are industries that were founded by the Jawara regime. Instead of going back and saying, let us try and ramp up all of these things that were there, we let them go to sleep. All of that has been destroyed. So what is Adama Barrow doing when he goes to bed? The answer is simple. He is not able to deliver, so he will deflect and use all kinds of tactics to our peril because things are just falling apart. They don't know what to do. And so the time has come. In 2 years, we're going to go to the polls. We want the IEC to give us the raw data, the results of what happened in 2021, not the numbers that they supposedly must have brought up. We need those real raw data to be able to gauge who won the elections and be able to understand who voted and who is going to vote in the next election. That information needs to be provided. But we are planning, and the UDP understands this. We all know that one political party will not take this guy out. We need, on the day of election, before the polls are closed, to be able to tell who is supposed to be the next president of our country. And we will vet every single person that we elect. There is going to be a coalition, I believe, and the coalition of that group of political parties who are going to formulate themselves will be a formidable force to begin to clean. There's going to be a clean sweep. We need to change the system. And it's going to be difficult because he has set these people there, Abubakar Jawaras and Mohammed Jad, to continue to take us down that rabbit hole. Alpha Barrow himself is going to end up in that rabbit hole. With that, guys, thank you very much.
Thank you, Saul. Yeah, Demba, Mustafa and you. So, if you guys have anything to add to what Saul said.
Yeah, I think he's Mustafa talking.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think he's spot on. But I can tell you that the Adam Barrow is not going anywhere. He's not going to yield power. The Gambian people have to be conscious of what is happening, and we must have a different narrative for these 2026 elections. There must not be a third term for Adama Barrow. I don't care if there is a constitution or there is no constitutional term limit. We have to narrate it as there is no third term for Adama Barrow. At the end of the day, who was responsible for creating a new constitution for us? The government. Who killed the draft constitution? His government. And now they're going to come back and tell us that there is no term limit. And therefore, the president has a right to run for a third term. The Gambian people must be conscious that third terms are frowned upon across the world, across the globe. If you are a leader, and especially in Africa in recent trends, if you're a leader and you want to go for third term, you are not seen in a positive light. And therefore, we must trend it that way. That we must portray that there is no third term for Adama Barrow. And I mentioned this. And if people think that Adama Barrow is going to go somewhere else, he's not going to go anywhere. The unfortunate thing about us is that, and Mustafa mentioned this earlier, they're using money and resources to entice the electorate. They have been able to reduce the issues to between them and us. They basically are out there and saying UDP is going to do the same thing. I mean, UDP is not the only party out there. There's a whole bunch of parties, but the whole thing has become between UDP and NPP, and people have to be conscious about this. That there is no third term. Adam Barrow is not there to serve anybody but himself. Now that the IOIC is over, they're going to start neglecting a lot of things that are happening in the country. And the people have to be conscious, especially the young people. You really have to be conscious of what is happening to you. That you have the right and you have the power to take up the challenges and say, you know what happens next door in Senegal? Listen, what we did in Gambia is far greater than what happened in Senegal. The change that we fought in Gambia, the entrenched dictator that we removed in Gambia, was a far bigger threat than what Macky Sall did in Senegal. You know what those people did in Senegal, we did far greater than that, and we can do it again. Unfortunately, yes, we can always narrate the story and say, okay, these people were there, these people are the people who squander it. It doesn't give us it gives us another opportunity to change the leadership, and we have to be conscious about this. Otherwise, what is going to happen in that country, we're all going to feel it. You are going to feel it as a young person. You're listening to this, you're going to feel it. And it's before it gets to me, it's going to get to you. It's going to get to your parents. It's going to get to your next door neighbors. It's going to get to everybody. Every Gambian has to be conscious of what's happening. Our problems are man-made problems. They're aggravated by government, and they can be addressed. And we need to be conscious about that. Thank you very much, Sean, for your contributions.
Yeah, so I have another caller. That way we can do an analysis after they're done. So, Bas, go ahead.
Contributors, especially to Mustafa. So my question to Mustafa is, I think when you were speaking, you mentioned governments should be transparent and accountable. But what do you think, at one point, should we maybe flip the switch and say the citizens should be accountable and responsible? Because we have to take accountability for what's happening. If you look at our trend from Jawara to Jame to Barrow, who's empowering them? It's the citizens that are empowering them. Who's celebrating the bad stuff they're doing? It's the citizens. I'll give you an example. Let's take an example. You mentioned Mamadou Sabo. Mamadou Sabo is all the three, republics we have. No, the last two. From Jame, he was celebrated. He called UDP the Mandinkas, all kind of names. Then the tide stormed. He went to UDP and he was celebrated. Now the tides are turning again. He went to NPP and he's celebrated. So it's the citizens who are celebrating the bad behaviors from our leaders. And our leaders are doing that. So until and unless we change as citizens, now you mentioned, Denver mentioned Senegal, what happened in Senegal. Back there, the citizens took charge. In Gambia, we are celebrating bad behavior. In Gambia, we have this, we're celebrating corruption. So that's what we're celebrating. So it's not the government. It's time we take stock as citizens that we are the people who are allowing these people to do that. Barrow, whether we like it or not, he's building a coalition of people like him. And that coalition is very big. The coalition of that people like Barrow are people who are just coming and squander our resources. And that's what the majority of the Gambians are. You mentioned, the procurement officers. They're doing that everywhere. Everything is celebrated. Bad behavior is celebrated in Gambia. You look at what we are building in Gambia is psychophant. You look at the people like Ibrahim Sankare who have been in the West. They are now psychophants. You talk about people like Dr. Ismail Silla. Dr. Ismail Silla, they were on the other side. But are we Gambians not the people promoting that? We are the problem. I don't think the politicians are the problem. You take away Barrow tomorrow, you bring someone else. It's going to be the same thing. Because that's what we do. We promote bad behavior. And that's our bigger problem. That's why we are not going to go anywhere. That's why Barrow is going to win in 2026, whether you like it or not. Because there's so many Barrows. There's so many people who are like Barrow in our midst. That's why we're winning. We're not looking at what's important for Gambians. We're more looking at the personal stuff. You know, what is in it for me, myself, and I. It's not about a project. It's not about anything. We don't understand anything. Come on, man. Barrow, of all people. Look at when we were doing the coalition pick. Barrow should have been the last one who should have been picked. Because we had an MOU. We said it was going to be 3 years. We should have installed someone and take him out. But no. People, you have intelligent people that are defending Barrow day in and day night. You think the farmer from Sarangai would understand that? No. He's not going to understand that. He's just going to see someone with a BMW passing by supporting Barrow. You see Sabali, he now has a, you know, the youth are happy. Everyone is celebrating that. And people think that it's okay. So our problem is us as citizens. We can say the government has to do this, but as long as the citizens are not taking responsibility, I don't think we're just going to go through the same cycle. That's just my thought. I mean, what's your thought on that? I know you're doing great investigative journalism, and you're seeing corruption day in and day out. Government is not doing anything to stop that, but there's someone who can do that. It's the citizen, and if we're not doing that, nothing will happen. That's just what I wanted to ask. Thanks.
May I just say something? You know, I think that when we shift the burden of leaders to the people, we're going to be mistaken. Now, the burden to fix this country as it is right now is on Barrow and the government. They carry the burden. And the lack of zeal or the ways to fix them, that burden, he carries it. Whether he's alive or after life, whether he's alive or dead, he carries that burden. For these 10 years, that burden is on him. It's not on the citizen. Now, the citizen who have elected Barrow, they trust him. They believe he can do it. That's why they voted for him. And so you can now go into criticizing what goes into their thought process in terms of how did they reach the conclusion that Barrow is a worthy candidate. Now, that would be always different from one person to another. Now, but let's look at this, for example, within the context of tribe. Now, in this country, people have always, in some cases, sold their tribe. So, set off, for example, I am Mandinka, and Mandinka should support me because if they support me, your kelole bejang, right? I mean, I've seen Pulas said the same thing. I've seen Wolof said the same thing. I've seen tribes say the same thing. But if you pay close attention, who are the people who manufactured this disease? It is not the average guy who is taking care of his herds in Dogoroba or who is taking care of his farm in Badibu. No. It is the educated elites who have made themselves the representative of the tribe, who have weaponized the tribe for whose gains? For the gain of the elites. The poor people have never benefited from tribe in this country, other than the language they speak. So they created within the poor people what Pierre Lumumba calls the feel-good effect. So for example, yes, Mustafa is a great investigative journalist, he's Mandinka. So he's happy because I'm Mandinka. Not that what I am has any foods on his table. No, it doesn't. So Barrow is Mandinka. Yes, I'm happy he's Mandinka. Not that Barrow being Mandinka puts any food on anyone's table anyway. So they created within the people a feel-good effect, which we all know politics people speak. In politics, people vote with their emotions, with their heart, not with their mind. And so this thing has been experimented all over the world. It's what is done in America. It's what is done everywhere. Donald Trump, when he told Americans the Mexicans, they are rapists, he sought to control their minds, and that is why he pumped emotion into them, because emotions, what does it do? It clouds your judgment. Because emotions and sense don't coexist in the same head. When emotion takes over, sense goes down. And so the people have struggled with this from independence to now. They've never been able to understand it. In Jawara days, it was weaponized. Under Jame, it was weaponized. Jame said Mandinkas, they don't like me, they hate me, this. But this same Jame, the Mandinkas don't like them. But this same Jame, the first thing he sold to the Gambian people was he was a Mandinka. He's descendant of Mama Tamba. But why did he find it not so fancy? Because he thought now, well, that didn't work. To weaponize the Mandinka based on his paper didn't work, and now I have to neutralize them. So essentially, what I'm trying to say is that the elites have confused the people, and through no fault of their own, the people have bought these people because they are their sons and daughters, and they bought their idea and saw them as legitimate representatives of them. But they have failed in that. Is the people responsible? To some extent, yes. But who owns that failure? It's not the people. If I have hired you and give you a task and I pay you to execute that task, when you fail, you can blame me for being too dumb to hire you. But you carry the greater burden. Do you see the point? Now, yes, we have a social decadence. Social decadence in the sense that people have lost their moral compass. I've had a situation where I was working on a story, illegal timber trade, and there were arrangements that through a third party, somebody communicated through a third party that he wanted to give us money so that we dropped the story. This story was published in 2022. And through what I had, quite frankly, I have not had money from this individual. But through a third party, they claimed he wanted to give us $1 million. And so I was working, so I was doing this, when I was finalizing the story, there was this couple of white guys who came also doing the same story with us. But they were doing it for Swiss national TV, and I was completing it for Malaga. And so this fixer we have hired, I don't have to mention his name, when I explained to him that story, and what he told me was, you should take the money. You should take the 1 million and go and build a house. Now this guy is in his 50s plus. Why do you think he thinks that? Because that is his understanding. This is what he thinks everyone should do. Watch out for yourself. That's what they call here. Watch your back. Now that is social decadence. And that we will have to deal with it for a very long time, because that affects much of the population from 15 years above, or probably 10 years above. So the only thing that probably can save this country in the short term is revolutionary politics. And that revolutionary politics, that's also far-fetched. Now, but you can't blame the people. The people have made their decision, and their decision is made at the polls. Somebody now carries that burden, and that person failed them. That person should be held responsible. Can the people make a better decision? Yes. But also you have to look at it. The average person don't have the time for politics in the Gambia. Now, truly. You have few people who are going around appointing themselves as tribal warlords and speaking for tribes. But the average person doesn't have, the average person in the Gambia is too preoccupied with food. They don't have time for politics, too preoccupied with food. I'm telling you, 53% of the country lives below $2 a day. Such people they don't have time for politics. You see. So the average person makes a decision without thinking, because he doesn't even have adequate information to make that decision. You see. So this is a very complex issue that I think we cannot just bring it down to the choice people make. People make their choices, and we can criticize those choices. But ultimately, we have to hold responsible the people who appointed themselves as either the spokesperson or the people who act or supposedly acting in the interest of the people who choose them. So yes, leaders fail, and this is inexcusable. But apathy is also a reality in the Gambia. You have 40,000 people, 40,000 people, employees of Gambia government, 40,000, making decisions for 2 million plus people. So we can't blame 2 million people for the failures of 40,000 people. If they come to trust them again, maybe they trust them and trust them with power. Maybe it's because they bought the stories they tell them. These things are complex. And for me, I can't blame the people regardless of who they are. There's nothing wrong with a Fuller voting for a Fuller because he thinks he's Fuller. There's nothing wrong with Mandinka voting for Mandinka because he believes that Mandinka will serve his. There's nothing wrong with that. Let's not make it a crime to belong to a tribe. There's nothing wrong with that. Now the problem is the person who is entrusted to execute a specific task has failed, and this is what needs to be criticized, in my view. As for the people, we just need to educate each other and make sure that everybody has adequate information to make proper decisions. Because it's not just enough to make a decision. Everybody can make a decision, but one has to make the right decision. And so this is for me the issue. And the rest of the people, I can't go around and blame the.
So, Mustafa, I mean, I, I tend to agree a little bit with the caller.
Yes.
That there is enough blame to go around.
Yes.
The failure of leadership, it's very, very paramount.
Yes.
But also, leaders don't put themselves there. People put them there.
Yes.
And as they say, elections have consequences.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, every citizen has a responsibility to make a decision. I mean, you and I can
Yes.
educate as much as we want. But at the end of the day, the people who go to the polls, those are the people who make the decisions. And if they decide to elect, let's say the stupidest leaders on the planet, then they're going to get governed by the stupidest leaders on the planet. I mean, that's a responsibility that they have to take. So in Senegal, I mean, they're not much different from us. They're struggling a lot, but there is a certain sector of society. I mean, we're not blaming the ordinary farmer in my village, my people who are voting for the president. We're looking for a certain sector of society who are supposed to know better. And those are the people who are selfishly aiding and abetting a failed system. And then after they sit at the corner and start crying. This is where we talk about personal responsibility. And when for example, I mean, our history is so recent. These are memories that we all remember. Jame was aided and abetted by our own Gambians, including so-called intellectual, we call them. The elites, I call them the elites. I just put everybody in the same box and just say the elites. The so-called educated. These are the people who aided and abetted and destroyed a system. And yet they all stood out there and then cried and then they start blaming Jame for what happens in the Gambia. What happened to personal responsibility? The people who, every one of us, if you take an oath of office, you are swearing to take an oath to defend the constitution and to defend the right of citizens. If you failed, then you, first of all, you have yourself to blame, right? So this is what the caller is saying. The Gambian people have to take responsibility of what is happening in our country. They blame, I say this all the time, everybody is complaining from the president to the lowest person. And yet there are very, very, very few people who are willing to do something about it. At the end of the day, the president and his crew are able to pitch, it's them against us, especially those of us in the outside. This is what Jame was successful in. So what I'm saying is that we have to take personal responsibility. I mean, the farmer is supposed to be as educated as anybody else. They educate us.
But okay, I agree with you. I agree with you. But then how do we shift the responsibility of a leader to the people? Now now, as it is right now, uh, there is already a mandate. There is a decision maker to choose someone and give the person a mandate. And there is an individual who has taken his mandate seriously and gave the leader that mandate. You've made mention of folks who have elected into, who have gone into government, and but look at it. I mean, now Barrow, for example, and all the folks you have said who have aided and abetted Jammeh's theft of public resources, who Barrow currently hires to be in charge of, in Joguba's case, a very key office in the country, um, or in Sabali's case, a presidential advisor. You can criticize that, but these decisions are made by leaders. It's not made by the people. The people are cheering them, yes, but this decision were made by leaders. The bringing of Sabali and to elevate him to the level he was elevated at the UDP so that he gained the political capital that he now sold to Barrow in exchange for the position. That decision was a UDP leadership decision. That was not the UDP common person decision. And because the leader made the decision, the people fall in line and they cheer Sabali. Until Sabali got enough political capital, and like he did, like you should expect him to do, he sold the capital to Barrow. And that's what you should expect him to do. I mean, I couldn't see how you could expect any less or any more, because that's I mean, people, so the decision can't rest with the average person. You have to hold the leaders accountable for their actions regarding whether people made the right decisions or not. This we can talk about it another time. It's a whole kettle of fish together differently. Because like I said, the people act based on information available to them. That information, who make it available to them? The leaders. And they trust them. These people, they go to them and tell them, look, I am a member of your community. They saw them as one of them. They saw them as tribesmen. They saw them as clansmen. They saw them as countrymen. They saw them as everything.
But
Yeah.
Mustafa, I mean, is it just to piggyback on that? Is it not apparent that Barrow is better, his family is better than the community in Mankama? If I hire
That
you,
is apparent, yes.
no, if I hire you, as
But
you, no, hang on, as you analyze, if I hire you, you are mute. You are mute.
you have more information to determine that than an average person. And the
Well,
average person could take, because these people, when we talk about things, they also go to them and tell them, look, this guy said, this gruntle guy, you see that journalist, he wants to be a minister. And for people, that makes sense. Maybe the journalist wants to make, because that is, in this country, I mean, I have had this experience. There are people do think that we are so messed up that it's impossible to have a honest person in the Gambia. When a Gambian in Turkey said to a guy that, my sustenance is with Allah, you can take these coins. My sustenance is with Allah. Gambians went online to say this is not possible because they don't believe honesty is no longer possible in Gambian is I mean, I'm telling you, this is serious business, and people think we are so messed up, it's impossible to be honest. I mean, even those in public service, when you criticize, they say, this guy, he will be worse. Yes,
but
they
that's what
say
that's what we have to change. And that's what we're working to change.
yes, but
right?
that is why I began with social decadence. That's what we have. We're struggling with bad behavior, and bad behavior has permeated the society. This social decadence, you can't change it in 2 days. It will take a lot of time, and it will take rigorous behavioral change campaign. But that will take a long time. Now, what you can have though is a revolutionary politics like they have in Senegal, with few selected people who are very conscientious, impose themselves upon the rest. That is possible. But that's also a long shot, very long shot. You see, so I can't blame the people. When this a high court, a chief justice, a high court judge, this guy who was in charge of the Constitutional Review Commission, Chorno Jalo.
Colonel Jallo, yeah.
Yes, when Chorno and others went around, they did a document. They came and they presented it to the people. One of the things he said when he was presenting the document, he said that people have grown apathy, they've grown disinterest, they've grown distrust so much in public officials, so much in the so-called Tuaw Karandingol, that one person said he doesn't trust his own son. Yeah, said he doesn't trust his own son. Now that there is your metaphor for our decadence. A father does not trust his son to 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 serve him. That's your metaphor for our state of affairs.
So
Do you
Mustafa,
see
I
that?
believe that is what we have to work to change. And I mean, we have the Sonkos in Gambia. We have the Jamai fires in Gambia. Again, I mean, people, when you are right, I mean, there is no question that there has been political apathy in the Gambia to a level that they don't believe, they don't trust the system. The majority Gambian people don't believe that when the UDP comes into power, they are going to do any better than what NPP is doing. The majority Gambians believe the same thing, that when PDIs come into power, it's the same thing. But these things did not happen overnight. It is a deliberate attempt from the elite to go in and poison the waters. But it is time for you and I to go back to the people and say, you know what? They are lying to you. They are lying to you. I mean, if you lie to me and I put you in power, and you come back again and you lie to me and I put you in power again, you come back for the third time, again you are lying to me. It's time, as a human being, every Gambian has the capacity to be able to think and to be able
Yes,
to,
yes,
and
yes,
to assess their
yes.
own situation.
I
And to
agree with you, Demba. But
tell the
that
story.
means we will have to now introduce a robust accountability mechanism
Yes.
within the structures of the parties, such that the average person in UDP, I don't believe in going to create new parties. I do not think people who do this should just do this. Uh, Let me not hold other people responsible for thinking, for doing the right thing. If you feel like I am talking about the old older parties who have just established to do the same things that others are doing, they could have joined other ranks. But if you want to come up with a party and you have different sets of ideas and different ways of doing things, be my guest. I think it's a wonderful thing to do. But then the point I'm trying to make across without delegitimizing other people's efforts is the people who are in these political parties are the people who should rise to the occasion and hold their leadership to account and make sure the leadership gets used to making decisions that not what they think is good for the people, but what the people think is good for them. That is, the development has to be authored, like Sidia used to say, authored by the people. You know, now, and this is the point. This is the point where we are now. This calls for not pro people leadership, but people leadership. Yeah, but for you to have that, Demba, people have to be within themselves part of the process. They have to participate in the process. You know, it's yes, it's a republic if we can keep it, like they said. Benjamin Franklin said, "It's a republic if we can keep it." So that philosophy has to be ingrained in the last person. But that also requires political education, but also the platform to be able to participate. You have seen political parties in the Gambia, when you raise issues, you want to be a candidate, you want to be a leader, they don't want to have a leadership debate. They don't want to have a leadership debate. It's one excuse upon another, one excuse upon another. They don't want to have any kind of debate. Within the same political parties, they don't want to have policy debate. How do you enrich the political platforms without reforming the political structures? Except there is a huge revolutionary politics in the Gambia, things can't just change. There has to be reform within the political process. Look at, for example, all the major political parties. Take UDP, APRC, and NPP as an example. Or add GMC, what is Mama Kande's party, GDC there. Look at the party structures. I mean, of course, they can all pay lip service to participation, yeah, participatory democracy, this, that, and that. But come on, this is a facade. It's not existing.
Why? But wonder, Mustafa.
No, bro, it's not there. I mean, you have to have robust internal democracy. Robust internal democracy. And parties have to be in the hands of efficient people whose job it is to run them. It's not having me, I'm a journalist, I'm a full-time employee, and I'm in charge of a party. How can that party be efficient? Maybe even if Doi maybe has full-time politicians. But I mean, I'm not saying full-time politician, I'm talking about full-time admin officers. No political party in the Gambia is in the hands of full-time admin officers who are in charge and making sure policy there is a policy debate, there is proactive. Some parties press releases, it takes them 2 days.
So Mustafa, let me challenge you.
It's been a good one. No, give me say it's been a good one. But I wanted you to share, because we talk about all these things, and it comes down to the central theme of who plays their part in helping to move the narrative, to move the efforts of folks that need support. So in terms of that, I mean, I know Republic has its publication, but these are efforts that you don't have to say, you don't get awarded for government contracts. I mean, you don't get a buy-in from big business communities. So it's through the effort and contribution of folks. So if you don't mind, if you could talk a little bit about that, and we'll have Demba wrap it up for the day, because we've been here almost 3.5 hours. So thank you.
Yeah, well, yeah, we newly set up, and yeah, we definitely are not ads run. We don't take advertisement. We don't also do we don't we only build for donation, individual donations, and project proposals, like a donor funding. So at this point, we're working on a number of stories, including investigation into Jammeh's assets. Yes, of course, we will appreciate all donations we can get through our website. It has a PayPal account attached. And yeah, for anyone done. And we're thinking maybe Waves should also be part of it, maybe little later. Yeah. Yeah. Well, about the Republic, though, it's a team of 4. So I mean, it's me and some couple of journalists. 2 are freelance, 2 are staffed, 3 are staff, and 2 are freelance. So it's a team of 5 right now.
Okay, thank you.
We have had some donations, though. I mean, and we are.
I wanted to put that on the. I wanted to put that on the site for folks to see.
We appreciate that, and that's very welcomed. Yeah. But with regards to the Gambia discussions, Demba, this is going to be a long conversation, and the people better now, because if you change Barrow under the current political arrangements, it doesn't matter what the UDP says. It doesn't matter what anyone says. It's just going to be the same, because the systems are the same. The structures are the same. They don't produce a different result. Like Barrow is saying, they are sabotaging me. And I said, if people are sabotaging you, then you have failed as a leader. The same thing goes for political parties. What we are seeing in 2017, what we have seen with what UDP produced with Barrow was not a result of individual effort. No, It is the very foundation upon UDP is established that produced what we had in 2017. It's the structure and its leadership. Not much has changed. People left, people come, but let's not equate bright, principled people within a certain structure to changing the setups of that structure. These two are different. If you come to Republic or the Republic, and the Republic is set up in a certain way, you've never seen people who go into an organization and say, I have to leave, I can't fit in. Because the structures are established in ways that don't allow for productivity. They don't allow for too much ideas, people to battle over ideas. One of the most progressive parties in the Gambia is PDYS. What do you think if Sidia and Halifa resigns from PDYS right now, right now? You think it would be the same any longer? It wouldn't be the same. I can answer that. It won't be the same. For some time, it won't be the same. If, for example, the leadership of UDP resigns right now, they're telling you, no, we have young people, yes, but it wouldn't be the same. We know it wouldn't be the same. I mean, come on, we smarter than that. Things, the way they run in the Gambia are just not the way parties should be run. And that is affecting our democracy. It's the poor governance of our parties that results to the poor governance of our state. And unless the poor governance of our parties change, the poor governance of our state will not change. Until today, UDP failed to acknowledge its responsibility in what happened in 2017. Until today, parties, Alifa went to debate with Ismaila over the coalition and the coalition's failure. He said coalition never failed, but the coalition did fail, even though it succeeded in changing Barrow. But coalition was not all about changing Barrow. There was more to the coalition agenda than just changing Barrow. So everybody has the tiniest responsibility. People need to admit that. Then we can improve. If you come to me and say, Republic, I've published stories and people reach out and say, whether when I was at Malagan or now at the Republic, people reach out and say, oh, we think you could have done better. You could have asked this and that question. I don't say you can't tell me my job. I said, okay, if I have excuses, I give you. If I don't have excuses, I say, okay, yeah, maybe next time I will answer that, or we will do a follow-up. You see, and that's what leadership is about. So, and this is not in our parties. Until today, they cannot have conversations. They are not having conversations. So I'm sorry. I don't see anything changing.
So I think, Mustafa, that this is where my challenge is, and I'm gonna wrap it up here. Seriam. I think this is where we have the challenge, and the challenge is to you and I, and to every Gambian that is listening, or is going to be listening, or as every Gambian who is responsible in one way or the other. The same political establishment that we have in the country, it doesn't have to be that way. The young people, young leaders that are within the UDP have a responsibility to change course. I mean, clearly, the same thing that they've been doing since the inception of the party is not working. I mean, let's not fool ourselves. The party was established for them to be able to win elections to get into power. It's not working. So therefore, the people within the UDP and within the PDOIS, which is also not working. No, let's not fool ourselves. It is our responsibility to go in there or to be in there and have a frank discussion and say, what we've been doing is not working. Let's change it. Let's change it, and let's let people offer themselves. When President Obama offered himself to run for president, a lot of people said it wasn't his time. A lot of people said he was in a haste. But he offered himself. Citizens have to go and offer themselves. If you have to establish your own political party, establish your own political party. We have to change the narrative. This is our time. It is not enough to blame the leaders that are sitting there and we're just on the side and not doing what we need to do. If you think that you have what it takes, you have the capacity to change, go and mobilize of yourself. I mean, Sonko and others, that's what they did. They are not any better than we have the Sonkos within the UDP. We have the Sonkos within the PDIS. We have them among us that are sitting on the fence, that are just looking in and scared to get in. We can't blame them. We have to take the bull by the horn. Us as citizens, take the responsibility, take the bold decisions. This is our country. Nobody is going to come from anywhere and change it for us. And I know a lot of us are sitting on the outside. There is a reason why some of us are so skeptical in becoming party affiliates, right? Because our politics has become in such that once you declare your support to a political party, you are limited. You are limited as to how much you can challenge the leaders. You're limited as to how much you can speak up out there. You're limited as to how much you can be creative. We have to disrupt these political parties internally. And I'm not saying them come into UDP or go into PDIs to stop it. But there are people within the UDP who knows that what has been happening and there has not been working. And they need to be bold enough to be able to challenge it. Otherwise, what we're going to do is that every year people blame, people complain. Listen, I mean, we have to change the structures. We have to change the way we do things. Political parties, you don't have to be in government to be able to serve the people. You don't have to be. They have to have a financial structure to be able to, to support the people of their people. If there is need, you go to NPP bureau today, you cannot even have a place to, I went into the bureau, NPP bureau in December just to meet, CDC, a friend of ours. And there are people sitting on the steps asking for money. That's their survival mechanism. They don't have jobs. So the political party, you cannot just say, I have to wait until I get into government, I decide to change people's lives. No, there's a lot of things that we can do to change people's lives. We have to change our political structure. We have to challenge the status quo. And the status quo is not only the government. The status quo is within our political parties. The status quo is within our society. The status quo is how we raise our kids, how we think, and how we deal with each other. That's the status quo. We hold ourselves accountable, and we hold each other accountable. You cannot hold somebody accountable if you are not accountable yourself. So, I mean, Gambians, we need to stop blaming other people all the time for you don't expect me, them, but to fight your war, your battle. Take a responsibility. And that's what the caller was saying earlier on. Until the people take responsibility for their own behaviors, their own actions, nothing is going to change in the country. You and I can try to do as much as we can. If I come to Gambia and if I believe that I can form a political party in the Gambia and make the changes and win the hearts of the minds of the people, I will do that. And there are Gambians who are thinking about that. Don't
And
sit on the side.
But there are two things you can achieve, and there are no failures. One is you can get the person who is sitting on his toes, or you can retire the individuals. There are two things that young people, I'm not a fan of saying young people should go into politics. I'm not a fan of saying old people should not contest. If you have old efficient person, they should contest. Yeah. This is not a job where age is discriminated. This is a job for efficient people. And if efficient people, old or young, within the parties challenge their way through up within the structures, two results will come out. The leadership that is lazy would now be efficient, or it will be retired. Either way, you win.
All right, guys, but it's been a really good one, really good one. And I think today, when my boss wakes up and review the discussion, he will be very, very happy, because he's more traditional. So I think today we had some good discussion, good spirited debate. So really good one, man. And I appreciate your time, Mauro Demba and Mustafa, and hopefully we'll keep in touch, and we'll get you guys back here in the near future.
Inshallah.
You owe me a commission. You and Partner Network owe me a commission. You need to reply a client to me. I've been sitting here for hours. Mustafa talking about capitalism.
All right, man. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.